Hi guys, and welcome back to this story. I know the last part only came out a few weeks ago, so I wanted to upload the What If movie, something that I plan to do for most of my What Ifs going forward. However, I know some of you out there are probably confused as I have other What Ifs which are finished. Two of my bigger ones mainly being What If Chi-Chi became a Saiyan and What If Raditz came early for Goku. And the issue with them is during an upgrade to my PC, I actually lost some of the files on my what ifs, losing a lot of my old data, a lot of my old files, and just a lot of issues happened when upgrading my PC. So I had to start again, having lost some of the earlier parts of What If Chi-Chi became a Saiyan, and the first three parts for What If Raditz came early for Goku. This isn't too much of an issue, and something I plan to resolve myself by currently just sitting back through and re-recording the voice lines and re-editing the videos. But that's going to take time since I don't want to make them my main priority. They're a side project I play with any time I have the chance. But for now, I hope people understand that this will be my first What If which gets a movie. The next one will likely be What If Beerus came to Earth early, since that What If is done and it's going to be relatively short. That all said though, I do hope everyone enjoyed this series just as much as I did, and I hope you enjoy this movie. Have a great one, and I'll speak to you at the end.
However, in this timeline, instead of it being Leek, who is his partner and teammate, it is the likes of Tora. Tora and Bardock have been doing missions since they were very young. They started doing missions together at a young age. Both being low class, they never expected to get as strong as they are today. And this is mostly thanks to Bardock. Bardock has always had Tora's back in any situation. And this led to Tora wanting to grow stronger to help Bardock, and the two grow a lot stronger from doing this. Now, like normal, Bardock shares his concerns about Frieza and about bringing everyone to the planet, and slowly, like normal, he is piecing things together here, with Tora understanding and almost agreeing with Bardock. Now, Tora asks if the two should turn around in this timeline, just leave the planet and not go there. However, Bardock explains that the likes of Gine, Raditz, and Kakarot are all on the planet right now, and he wants to at least make sure they are alright and off the planet. Plus, their power levels are pretty high. If they were to just turn around, they could possibly be noticed and probably shot out of the sky in space, left to, asphyxiate to death. With Tora sort of nervously laughing, he just hopes that Frieza doesn't, destroy the planet. Things start going like normal, the two travel to go off and see Gine after landing on the planet. Bardock shares his concerns with Gine, and much like normal, the two send Kakarot off into space. And this is where we see our change. We see Bardock turn towards his wife, and tells her that she has to leave the planet as well. She's confused, and he explains how her power wouldn't be noticed. She could go off, and no one would know anything else. With her asking if Bardock would be leaving as well, Bardock says how if both of them were to leave, his power would probably get them caught. It has to be one or the other, and he wants it to be her. With this said, Bardock hears a thud behind him, turning around to see Tora, carrying another pod and having dropped it. The pair share a nod, and Bardock begins to turn back towards Gine, about to tell his wife to get into the pod. However, just before he can even let out any words, he feels a sudden hit on the back of his head. With him slowly losing consciousness, he turns around and manages to see Tora shaking his hand off, and hears Gine shouting at him, before seeing nothing. With Gine shouting at Tora saying how he didn't have to hit him so hard, and how he didn't have to resort to that. With Tora not listening to what she has to say, he picks up his friend's body and starts putting him into a pod. Gine still shouting at him, Tora finally says something back. You know why I helped you, right? Gine shakes her head, having no idea why Tora even agreed to this. It's very unsaiyan-like to want to save someone, like Bardock just did. Ever since I'd been going on missions with Bardock, he'd always had my back. Whether it was on missions, around elites, regardless of the situation, he had my back. So, just once, even if he doesn't want it, I want to help him. Plus, if Frieza does destroy this planet, Bardock won't rest until he gets revenge for us, for the race. So, whether he wants to or not, he needs to be the Saiyan out of us three that survives. You would probably just go on to live a peaceful life. I would probably cower away from the fight, or never get strong enough. Bardock's different though. He has it in him. I'm sorry I had to knock him out, but I did warn you this might have to happen. So did you make the recorded message like I asked of you? Gine nods and puts the device into the pod on Bardock's lap. With this said, Tora starts setting the pod to head off towards a planet where Gine and him had discussed sending Bardock to, knowing that no one will bother him while he's on this planet. With this done, Bardock rockets off into the sky. The pair watch nervously, hoping that Bardock won't be noticed, and with a bit of luck, he is soon out of sight. The pair head off and just get back to whatever they can do, while hoping that Frieza doesn't destroy the planet. However, much like normal, planet's Vegeta destruction happens, with nothing to change here. However, there is one small change of Tora fighting off Frieza this time. He probably does just as well as Canon Bardock, being as though him and Bardock are stronger than from Canon, so nothing to note there. Now, after about a month of travel of Bardock being unconscious, having slept his entire journey, he enters the atmosphere of a planet, and this makes the ship rattle dangerously. Doesn't wake the sleeping Saiyan just yet, however, the crash he makes into the planet does, with Bardock grabbing his head and slowly climbing out of the ship he had landed in. All he can see is green, and as he pulls himself fully out of the pod, he sees a device that falls to the ground. Grabbing it, he recognizes it as a recorded message, and clicks it, which is when a message from Gine starts playing. Hi Bardock, I guess if you're hearing this, me and Tora went through with our plan. After hearing what you said about possibly Frieza destroying the planet, we needed to do something. We met just before we sent Kakarot off in space, and we both agreed that you needed to be saved. Tora had his reasons, and I had mine. But we just wanted to make sure you lived. You had helped us so much in your own way, and we wanted to help you this once. Now, hopefully Frieza doesn't destroy the planet, and this will lead to you being able to come back soon, but as for now, we want you to lay low. I'm sorry we had to do this, but I can at least help you in some way. You're on a planet called Namek, which is full of peaceful beings from what we heard. However, some of them can be quite strong, so be careful. Stay hidden for a year before checking the planet. Hopefully, we'll still be here. I love you, Bardock. Thank you for everything. Bardock hearing this, he almost breaks out in tears, unsure of the fate of his wife, his planet, his race, his family, his friends. He's in a rush of emotions, and he gets ready to turn back around and leave the planet on his ship. However, he comes face to face with a giant green man, who is sat on the same pod watching him. The likes of the giant looks at Bardock, and Bardock pulls himself to his feet, taking a fighting stance. But the Namekian shakes this off. I can tell you're in no state to fight. You're not mentally or physically on my level just yet. Before smirking. And the Saiyan doesn't really back down. He begins to throw a flurry of punches at the Namekian, who dodges everything thrown at him. And with this done, the Namekian lands one chop on the back of Bardock's neck. With the Saiyan muttering, how not again, before falling unconscious. With the Namekian seeing this, he picks up the Saiyan pod with one hand and grabs Bardock with the other, flying off towards a massive building on a cliff. With the likes of Bardock waking up only about an hour later in a strange place with a giant Namekian in front of him, the Saiyan gets ready to fight once again. However, after seeing the Namekian who just put him down, he takes a bit more of a passive stance. With the giant Namekian sort of laughing and introducing himself, he explains how he is Guru, the elder of this planet, and sort of the leader. And right now Bardock is being judged on whether he is to be treated as a threat and killed, or if he can be allowed to live. With Bardock confused at how this Namekian knows his name, Guru says how he has read his mind, trying to figure out if he is a kind being or an evil threat, and they need to figure out if they should deal with him. Bardock thinks to himself how surely he is evil. After all, he's killed hundreds, but Guru says how inside of the Saiyan there is a lot of turmoil. There is a lot of evil in him, yes, but there is a massive capacity for good, and if treated correctly, he could be brought to the right side. Bardock is almost in tears from laughter. He's never heard of something so outrageous. A Saiyan, good, and just laughs. Before brushing this off, saying how they won't need to vote. And he just needs to be left to return to his ship so he can head back to his home planet. With Nail, who had knocked him out earlier, saying how, unfortunately, that won't be happening. The Namekian goes on to say how his ship was damaged in the crash, so he might be stuck here for a little while. Bardock's sort of shocked and annoyed. He doesn't believe it and wants to head off to see his ship for himself. He gets ready to leave with the likes of Nail stepping in front of him. And Guru saying how, if Bardock's ship is truly damaged, he can pass a test of his, purge all the darkness in his heart, and they will give him his own ship. And that is all Guru says. Bardock, not really caring, pushes Nail to the side, with Guru confirming with Nail if what had actually happened to Bardock's ship is true. He explains how he was telling the truth. Bardock walks outside and sees his ship pretty banged up, and grabs it and flies off. Nail, after sensing that Bardock had left, Guru why he's giving a murderer a second chance, with Guru saying, "When I read his mind, I could see the situation that brought him here. I could almost feel the purity in the hearts of one of those Saiyans. He does have the chance to be pure. However, it almost seems that he isn't allowing it to show. Maybe it's something to do with pride that we Namekians just don't understand. Or maybe he feels that after everything he had done in his life, being good just isn't in him, and he doesn't deserve a second chance. However, if we could get him to join the side of good, he would be a powerful ally." With Nail taking this in, he remembers that Bardock listened to a recorded message when he first arrived, some woman saying speaking to him. Nail wonders what he thought of everything, trying to figure out what might be going through Bardock's head right now. Nail decides that giving Bardock space is probably for the best, however he doesn't want to leave him too close to his people. So Nail takes up the task of warning all villages that there is a Saiyan on the planet. Even though most of the elders in the villages knew, this is just a more informative warning. Then Nail spends the next few days tailing Bardock, just making sure he's up to nothing. And with a few days going by, we see Bardock has moved into a cave, having set up his own sort of base there. Currently, he's trying to repair his ship, and it isn't really going anywhere. Keep in mind he has no tools, supplies, or idea of what he's doing. In fact, he's probably making things worse. With him being annoyed after trying to fix it for a few hours, he decides that he's hungry and heads out to start hunting for some food. With him sick of eating frogs, he decides to go off and hunt for some fish. And while he's out hunting, he is in a bit of a turmoil in his head. He realises that without supplies, he won't be able to fix his ship. Without tools, he won't really be able to do much else. He has no real way of getting off this planet without the deal that old Namekian made with him. And slowly, while hunting, he comes to terms with the fact that he might have to take this deal. Even though he doesn't believe he can be pure, he will have to try. It might be his only way off this planet. After all, that Namekian who knocked him out definitely has the ability to kill him, so this isn't a fight he wins. After being on the planet for a few days, he's learnt that there is no moon, so he can't even go Great Ape to, try and win the fight. He's pretty much stuck, unless of course he takes this deal. Now, after a while of hunting and eating, he heads off towards Guru's house. He thought of some terms he wanted to make, and, making his experience a lot easier on the planet. And he walks into Guru's house, where he walks in telling the giant Namekian that he will take this test. However, he plans on being no hero, and he just wants a way off this planet. Guru, not minding this, tells Bardock what his test is. "You will have to purge your heart of evil within you. Whether this takes you days, months, years. As long as you do that, I will get you your ship." Bardock's confused at how he will do this, and demands an explanation on how he could possibly do this. However, Guru explains that he can't help him with this. Everyone will discover their own way differently, so this is something Bardock will have to do on his own. Bardock, hearing this, decides that he needs something out of this at a minimum. He adds that if he's taking this test, he wants some things from the Namekians. He wants a place to live of his own, away from a village. He wants someone who he can fight with to get some training in. And finally, he wants that Namekian who had been tailing him for the last few days to leave him alone. Guru shouts out for Nail, and Nail walks in. Bardock looks towards Nail, saying how if you're going to track someone, make sure it's someone who doesn't have military background. With Nail impressed to hear that Bardock was pretty much aware of him the whole time, Guru says to Bardock that he can meet all those requirements, and introduces Nail as Bardock's training partner. Nail smiles at the thought of getting to push Bardock around a little bit, and Bardock isn't too bothered. With a day passing and Bardock getting his new home on the outer side of a village, you can see him having moved in his ship and having a bed and stuff in there now. He is just settled in, and this is when Nail shows up. He is being told by Guru to try and help Bardock become pure in any way possible. So the pair get ready to come into a routine. They first spend the first 2 weeks just doing physical training, sparring with one another, and after those 2 weeks, Nail gets a good understanding of who Bardock is and how he works, and actually realises that Bardock is kind of different from other Saiyans. And with this done, Nail thinks that maybe meditation would be a good way for Bardock to purify himself. And once this is introduced to Bardock, he doesn't really like the idea, however he goes through with it. The two spend a few hours a day meditating, with Nail finding this easy to relax himself and centre himself, whereas Bardock struggles, as the moment he isn't thinking of fighting or trying to repair his ship, he finds himself thinking of his home planet, the people who have likely died, but he mostly finds himself thinking of Gine, Raditz, Kakarot, Tora, people he cared for, thinking about how they were very likely killed, how they could be dead, how he possibly could have saved all of them if he just warned more Saiyans. Maybe he could have stopped Frieza, but maybe his planet's still there. He hopes and desperately believes they are all alive. However, because he can't find out, it leads to him not ever being able to clear his mind. Nail, after a week seeing not much progress, with Bardock really not changing during this training of meditation, after a week he turns back to just sparring, and decides that he's going to have to try and get to know the Saiyan better. So during these next few weeks, he is taught how to sense ki and suppress energy. With Bardock learning how to do them in less than a week, this leads to Bardock trusting Ned a little bit, and the start of a friendship is beginning to form. The two spending the next 2 months training with one another. Most of the time they will be spent sparring with one another. However, the likes of the two will sometimes spend a few hours a day meditating, with Nail trying to see what Bardock can do, see if he can push past whatever's blocking him. However, whenever Bardock spends his time meditating, he just uses his new ability to sense ki to try and find planet Vegeta. Miles and miles away it is, he knows this, however he tries his best, and for the better part of 2 months, he can't find anything. Bardock soon comes to the realization that it's either gone, or it's just too far for his ability. So Bardock leaves the whole meditating thing behind for a while. One day, while the pair are training, Bardock isn't really paying attention, and this leads to the likes of Nail landing a good hit on Bardock, with Nail sort of laughing, saying how if he isn't paying attention, the Saiyan will get killed. However, Bardock lays on the floor, and he doesn't get up, saying how he isn't sure what happened to his race, and this stupid training is getting him nowhere, and right now, he just needs to be alone. With Bardock getting up, he heads into his house to try and fix up his ship a bit more, after having been given some tools by Nail, who had warmed up to the Saiyan quite a lot. Nail now sees what might be stopping Bardock from purifying himself, what's blocking his vision. He flies off, heading towards Elder Guru, knowing of a way that maybe could help Bardock. With him arriving at Guru's place, the elderly Namekian wonders why Nail is back so early, with Nail explaining what he's been going through with Bardock, explaining how he believes there is a way he can help Bardock. He has to give him closure on what happened to his race, what happened to his planet, with this maybe being the thing that can help him grow, and Guru thinking that it might not be a great idea. After all, if he was to get angry, he could lash out. However, Nail, who knows the Saiyan the best, explains how it will help. He knows this. Guru understands and puts his full faith into Nail, and when Bardock sleeps, the pair start gathering the Dragon Balls. Well, it's mostly Nail doing it, and Eventually, the Namekian warrior makes a wish on the Dragon Ball, summoning forth Porunga. And a small side note, Nail would have never told Bardock about the Dragon Balls. He believes that if he was to find out, he might do something terrible. So for now, it's best to leave it like this. With the Namekian making a wish on Porunga, asking what was the fate of planet Vegeta, the home planet of the Saiyans, Porunga explains what happened with Frieza, to the planet, and to the race. Nail is terrified of hearing this. He was hoping that maybe the planet was still there. This would be what would help Bardock. However, with it not there, he now has to tell Bardock the terrible fate which happened to his planet. He thinks fast and wonders if there's any more Saiyans alive. He wishes to know if any Saiyans are around. Porunga explaining there is. There is 8 Saiyans alive, including Bardock. Hearing this, Nail knows what his next wish needs to be. He asks for the names of the Saiyans who survived the destruction on planet Vegeta, and Porunga lists off this name: Goku, Raditz, Vegeta the Fourth, Nappa, Tarbell, Broly, and Paragus. With Nail hearing this, he thanks the dragon before trying to figure out how to break the news to Bardock. With him seeing the Saiyan the next day, Bardock has clearly gotten into a better mood and is actually a bit more chipper today, clearly getting some stuff off his shoulders yesterday. With him actually welcoming Nail and getting ready to get into their normal sparring routine. However, Nail isn't his normal self. He just hasn't got it in him to lie to Bardock. After all, like I said, Nail had grown fond of Bardock, and this leads to him explaining what happened to Planet Vegeta. And Bardock, after hearing his whole race had died, feels a rush of emotions. At first, he feels sadness, as he didn't save the people he loved and cared for, not yet knowing how Raditz and Kakarot had survived. But then he feels a rage, a massive amount of rage. He knows who did this. He knows who killed his family. The person who killed his people, the person to blame. It was Frieza. Without warning, Bardock lets out a massive burst of energy and rockets off towards the Elder Namekian's house. With Nail worrying now, he rushes off after him. With Bardock not taking long to arrive at Guru's place, he walks into the room, demanding the old Namekian give him a ship right now, so he can go deal with that monster Frieza. With Guru shaking his head, saying how he had not met the requirements they had agreed upon. With Bardock having still a lot of rage in him, he says damn to the requirements. That monster killed my people. I need my revenge. With Guru telling Bardock to take a moment and think, he is nowhere near strong enough to beat Frieza. Its current mentality, his power, was nothing compared to him. Guru had been keeping tabs on Frieza. After all, he can probably sense a key as big as Frieza's out in the distance. He's probably kept tabs of Frieza after having read Bardock's mind, so he knows where Bardock stands against Frieza. Guru says how, even if he had passed the test, he still wouldn't allow Bardock to act on his current rage. It would just lead to him being killed by Frieza. And once hearing this, Bardock takes a breath. He calms down a little bit. Even though meditation hadn't gotten him anywhere, well, mentally really, it calmed the Saiyan down just a small bit. He's now understanding that he is just acting on instinct, and he has to calm down. With Bardock having acted very differently to how he would have acted just a few months ago, Bardock understands that even though he has been training intensely, he is nowhere near Frieza's level, and if the rumours about him being able to transform are true, he just doesn't even stand a chance. With Bardock taking time to cool down, Guru is encouraging the Saiyan to take a moment, and almost praising him for taking this chance. Bardock is thinking to himself how he needs to concentrate on passing this test, and acting out now won't be how to get anywhere. While doing this, Nail flies into the room behind Bardock, shouting at the Saiyan who he believes could be doing something he will regret. However, he can see Bardock is just taking a moment to center himself. With Bardock getting his composure back, in his own Saiyan way he apologizes to Guru before turning around to see Nail. He gives the Namekian a glare and gets ready to fly off. However, something the Namekian says does catch Bardock's attention. Nail explains how some Saiyans survived other than himself, how there is nearly 7 of them out there. With Bardock, interested, he turns around and asks does he know the names. He does, but he doesn't know the locations. He begins listing off names, and Bardock clings on to every name that's said. He lists off people called Broly, Paragus, Raditz, Vegeta, the Fourth, Nappa, Tarble, and someone called Goku, who have all survived the attack. All these Saiyans are alive. Bardock is never been so happy to hear the name of his son, but he's upset to hear that Tora, Gine, and Kakarot weren't mentioned. This sort of destroys Bardock. However, Nail apologises for everything Bardock had lost, saying how he will help him grow as strong as he can if he wants. But please pass this test first. It will help you not only get stronger, but find a way to defeat Frieza. With Nail clearly having left a good effect on Bardock, the Saiyan says how they will still be training today, with the pair flying off. Bardock is already forming a plan, and he knows what he has to do. His first step is to pass this test and get off this planet, and also become stronger. His second step, to travel the galaxy, find and collect the surviving Saiyans, while maybe picking up some techniques along the way. And finally, the last step would be to take down Frieza. Get revenge for his race. It's the only way. We join back on Namek, seeing Bardock currently locked in combat with 3 different Namekians. With all 3 of these Namekians throwing multiple punches straight at Bardock, the Saiyan can easily dodge and parry most of them, and eventually Bardock lands just a few punches on all 3 Namekians, knocking them to the ground. With all of them annoyed by this, Bardock begins to help them up, saying, "Sorry kids, but you've got a lot more growing before you can fight me." With all of them annoyed by this, they ask to go again, with Bardock saying how he needs to go off and do his meditation for today, but maybe he'll fight with them later. With the young Namekian warriors understanding, they fly off towards the nearby town. With Bardock heading towards the nearby body of water to begin his meditation, he starts floating above it and starts. He begins thinking to himself, "It's been 16 years. I understand my plan now. I need to find all living Saiyans and bring them here, where we will spend our time training before fighting off Frieza. However, finding them won't be easy, but I know where to start. The planet Vampa. That's where that Broly kid was sent, and his father Paragus chased off after him. If they're alive, that's the first place to check. I'll try to find Raditz. Hopefully he knows the location of the others." Bardock spends a few hours meditating. It had become a good pastime for the Saiyan, and he genuinely enjoys it. It makes him calm down, helps him plan out things, and just keeps his head clear. But not too far away from the meditating Bardock, the likes of Nail watches him. With his power suppressed, he smirks after a few minutes of watching and flies off towards Guru's place. With the elder Namekian already knowing what Nail wants, he asks if he's sure. With Nail responding that he is, Guru then responds saying that tomorrow will be the day then. With Nail happy to hear this, he soon flies off towards Bardock. With the Saiyan sensing the power of Nail coming towards him, he decides to call his meditation for the day. Nail soon arrives at Bardock's home, with the Saiyan happy to see his friend. He asks where has he been all day, with Nail explaining he had to talk to Guru about some things. That's all. With Bardock trusting this, he asks if they're going to get on with their training for today. With Nail responding, of course. The pair take a fighting stance, before rushing at one another, with them clashing at breakneck speeds. The pair only clash for a few seconds, but cause a massive shockwave, and soon the pair are locked in a good bit of combat. The two fight each other for a few minutes before eventually Bardock knocks Nail to the ground. With the Namekian warrior annoyed by this, he gets back up and rushes straight at Bardock, with the fight going on for much longer, with the two going back and forth for a while. And eventually they call it a quits. The pair both come out of this pretty banged up, with the likes of Nail being worse off than Bardock. With the pair deciding that they'll call it a day, Bardock decides that he's calling it a day altogether, thinking that he needs some sleep. And when the Saiyan disappears into his house, the likes of Nail flies off, but not in the direction of Guru's place. He's flying off towards a village not too far from Bardock's home. Not the one that is the closest, but just one over the horizon. And once he gets there, he grabs something and leaves. And the asleep Saiyan Bardock doesn't know what's happening. Eventually, a few hours pass, and Bardock wakes up from his sleep, with Bardock getting up and heading out to go get his day on. He walks out to see the likes of Nail, just stood outside his door, smirking and looking pretty happy with himself. Bardock, confused at why the likes of Nail is stood here, Nail soon asks for the Saiyan to follow him. With this confusing Bardock even more, he does follow Nail, with Bardock soon realizing that they are heading towards Guru's place. Bardock asks what's going on and Nail doesn't explain, with them soon arriving at Guru's house. Bardock walks into the room and sees the set of Dragon Balls on the side and one of the young warrior Namekians he has been training with recently. Now Bardock, looking at the Dragon Balls again, doesn't actually know anything about them. After all, they are all just sort of some part of ritual, and he never really bothered to learn too much more about it. And once walking into the room, he asks what's going on. Guru asking Bardock to come closer. With Bardock really confused now, he still does move closer, trusting the eldest Namekian. With the likes of Guru placing his hands on Bardock's head, he goes through Bardock's thoughts, spending a few seconds going through it, and eventually the eldest Namekian smiles, releasing his grip from Bardock's head, saying how he has passed the test. Bardock, confused for just a second, but then remembers that the test that he's been trying to pass, he asks, is he being serious? With Guru saying, I have searched your mind. The evil in you has all but just disappeared, with the good in you now having grown massively. I believe you are no longer a threat to my planet, my people, or the galaxy. In fact, I think you might be the savior of all of them. With Bardock kind of embarrassed by this is quite a weird thing to be told, but this is also the second time Bardock has been told something like this by the same Namekian. However, Bardock does take the compliment, and he thanks Guru, but he soon goes on to explain how he doesn't plan on being any saviour. He just wants to avenge his family and friends, that's all. Guru, already knowing this, knows that Bardock's path right now will lead to a much safer universe in the end. He is unintentionally making the universe safer, which does make him the saviour of it. With Guru telling Bardock that he is now an honorary member of the Namekians. With this being something Bardock is actually kind of happy to receive, Bardock quite likes the Namekians. He's not fond of all of them, but most of them are pretty good, and he does like all of them that he spends time with, and he appreciates this honour. With Bardock remembering that he had passed the test, he asks if he could have the ship he was promised. Guru says that there is some things that need to be done before that happens. First off, Guru puts his hands back on Bardock's head and releases the power hidden within Bardock. Bardock's power jumps up massively. Bardock, confused by this, he looks at Guru, with Nail saying, you passed your trial as a Namekian, so you got some of your hidden potential unleashed within you. This makes you an official warrior of the Namekian clan. And the final part of your, ceremony is allowing you to make a wish on the Dragon Balls. With Nail pointing towards the Dragon Balls over to the side, Bardock's unsure of what the Dragon Balls do. He asks what he means by wish, with Nail going on to explain, the Dragon Balls are a reward to a warrior Namekian who passes their trial, sort of a coming of age thing, but the dragon can grant any 3 wishes, such as getting a ship, learning the location of people, or bringing someone back from the dead. With Bardock hearing this, his eyes light up a bit as he looks over to the balls, with him thinking back to Gine, Tora, Kakarot, with Bardock looking towards Guru, asking how they work, with Guru explaining how he will have to speak in the Namekian language to summon the dragon. With Bardock hearing this, he grabs the balls and takes them outside, with Nail and the young Namekian warrior following Bardock outside. With Nail telling Bardock the words to say, with Bardock summoning Purunga. Bardock is amazed at the sight of the dragon, and all of Namek knows what's happening when the sky turns black. Purunga introducing himself, and also telling the group they have 3 wishes. With Bardock hearing this, he takes a moment to think and looks over to Nail, asking if the dragon can truly bring back people from the dead. With Nail nodding his head before saying that they will be brought back wherever they died, so if you're wishing someone back, make sure you bring them here. Bardock hearing this takes a moment to think and then nods his head, shouting out to the dragon, bring back the ones known as Gine and Kakarot, then bring them to this planet. With Purunga taking a moment before saying he cannot do this, Bardock's confused and annoyed. He shouts out asking why. Porunga goes on to say that the likes of Kakarot is alive, with both Nail and Bardock confused. Nail shouts out that when he asked years ago for the names of the Saiyans, why didn't he ever name Kakarot as one of them? With Porunga saying that the one called Kakarot now goes by the name of Son Goku. So when I asked for the boy's name all those years ago, he told me Goku. So that is the name that he had given. Bardock hearing this has a smile on his face. Both his sons survived. However, he hasn't got too much time to think. Porunga asking for what his corrected wish is. And Bardock takes a second once again. He wishes for bring back the likes of Guinea and Tora and bring them to this planet. Porunga spends a moment thinking, and then his eyes glow. The dragon lets out a flash of light, and suddenly Bardock can feel two new powers appear. With his eyes adjusting, he can soon see two people who over the years he had missed. With the pair trying to figure out what's happened and where they are, eventually they lock eyes with Bardock, who is currently happy to see them. With Guinea seeing Bardock, she rushes over to him, and the pair have a massive hug. With Tora walking over to Bardock asking how is it they're back. After all, the last thing he remembers is being destroyed by Frieza's supernova. With Bardock explaining how they have a lot of catching up to do, but first he needs to do something. Bardock walks back into the house of Guru and thanks the elder Namekian. With both Tora and Guinea seeing how different Bardock is, they're kind of confused. But Bardock goes on to ask something to the elder Namekian. He asks when will the Dragon Balls next be active, with Guru saying in 1 Namekian years, or 3 months. With Bardock spending a moment to think, he asks if he could use the balls once again when that comes round. With Guru having no problem with this, he allows it, telling Bardock that he obviously will be allowed, and once they are active, Nail will inform him. With Bardock happy to hear this, he thanks them, and Bardock then heads off, with Guinea and Tora following him. Bardock tells Nail to not bother with training today, he just wants to catch up with his friends. With Nail understanding this, Guinea and Tora follow Bardock back to his hut, with the pair being caught up on everything that has happened over the past 16 years. With Guinea and Tora happy to hear that Bardock had lived a good life over the last few years. Tora asks Bardock if they are the last few Saiyans, with Bardock shaking his head. There are more of us around. I only know their names, but I plan on finding all of them, and then we'll become stronger and take down Frieza. With Tora hearing this, he nods his head, saying how he wants to help. Bardock smirks, saying how they have 3 months before he can wish on the dragon again, before he can get his ship. So Bardock will try and get him up to speed before then. But from what he can sense, Tora has a lot of catching up to do. With Tora confused, Bardock goes on to explain how he no longer needs a scouter, how he can pick up powers without it. He can also hide his true power. With Tora hearing this, he wants to learn this, thinking it would be useful, and Bardock explains how it was something he was going to be taught anyway. Now, the quiet Guinea speaks up after all of this, asking for the names of the Saiyans who survived. She is clearly trying to find out if her sons made it. With Bardock grinning, he looks at his partner and says, "They're both alive. I know where to find Kakarot and I'll go get him as soon as possible. But I don't know the location of Raditz, so I hope I can find him using a wish." With Guinea hearing this, she smiles, with the three spending the day catching up. With Tora and Guinea soon learning that night isn't really a thing on this planet, and Bardock explains how they will soon get used to it. With them all calling it a day, Bardock gets back into his normal routine as the next day comes around. With the Namekian warriors that Bardock normally trains with showing up, the likes of Bardock explains how they won't be training with him today, they'll be training with his friend over here. With Tora feeling in the mood for a good fight, he gets ready to fight with them. Bardock shouts for them to begin the fight, with Tora rushing at the Namekians. And the fight begins. Tora manages to hold his own pretty well thanks to his good bit of combat experience. However, he starts soon losing, thanks to the fact that the Namekians are actually stronger than him individually. So fighting 3 at once is actually quite a big challenge. And as the fight goes on, Tora loses more and more ground. And eventually, Tora does lose, and he is knocked to the floor. Tora goes to stand back up, but he's helped up by the Namekians. Tora thanking them, Bardock explains how he will mostly be training with them. They're good training partners and good people, and they'll get you up to speed pretty fast. And then he goes on to explain how in the later parts of the day, he will learn to sense ki and suppress energy with him by doing something called meditation. With Tora understanding this, he gets into a cycle over the next 3 months where he trains with the Namekian warriors early in the day and is taught by Bardock in the later half of the day, with Gine also joining in with this training, finding it quite relaxing and actually enjoying meditation. Now, over with Gine, while Tora trains, she does spend time with Bardock. However, she wants to find some other things to do on this planet, and this is when she starts exploring a little bit, and soon finds a nearby village which has a lot of Namekians in it. Gine gets to spend time with them, knowing them, and meeting some of the younger Namekians, with her really enjoying being around the Namekians. After all, they're kind of similar. They're very kind-hearted people, but they can also fight. Gine can kind of relate to this. And soon Gine sort of integrates into this small village's life, helping them do everyday little things and sometimes even playing with the children, just so she has things to do every day. With all the Saiyans spending their time together whenever they aren't training or doing other things, 3 months soon pass, and the Dragon Balls are once again active. With now letting the likes of Bardock know, the Saiyan hearing this thanks his Namekian friend, saying how they'll start collecting them now, with the Saiyan and the Namekian heading off to collect the balls. With Bardock asking if it's truly okay to make another wish, with Nail saying how it'll be fine, with the pair spending a few hours collecting the balls, with Bardock and Nail summoning the dragon once again. With Prunga asking what their wishes are, Bardock says how he wishes for the location of all of the Saiyans, with Prunga transferring all the knowledge he knows of the locations of the Saiyans into Bardock's head. Bardock understands and soon figures out that the likes of Raditz, Nappa, and Vegeta are all working under Frieza, and this makes him question his plan for a second. Going off to collect them would be difficult if they're working under Frieza. Bardock wants to stay off Frieza's radar, and if those Saiyans are part of Frieza's army, that could cause a few problems. The one he really wants to get is Raditz, but right now that seems kind of difficult, so he has to rethink. He spends a few minutes pondering. He then decides that he will make a wish to have a ship. It won't be a bad thing to have around, and he wishes for a ship kind of like one of Frieza's main ones. He gets a nice big ship delivered to him, which is in working condition and is pretty well kept. And then Prung asks for his final wish. Bardock still doesn't know, but then thinks back to something Tora jokingly said. Something about wishing all Saiyans here. But Bardock doesn't want to wish all of them here. He just wants to wish the ones that aren't under Frieza. So he shouts out for Prunga to bring all Saiyans who don't work for Frieza right now to this planet, with 4 Saiyans showing up, with these being the likes of Broly, Paragus, Tarbell, and Goku. With everyone there very confused about what's happening, with them all looking around. With Goku being able to sense a lot of energies around him, Goku picks up massive energies right next to him and on the other sides of the planet. With Goku just looking around very confused. There is one power on this planet that is kind of close to his, and that's pretty close to him right now, being Tarbell. Goku is confused as he was just at Kami's lookout, but now he is here. With him taking another few seconds to adjust, soon someone who looks a lot like him lands right in front of him. Bardock scans the group in front of him, and he sees the likes of Broly and Paragus, who he would recognise, and a young Tarbell and a young Kakarot. Bardock, seeing Kakarot, knows this to be his son, but doesn't bring it up right now. With seeing all of them, he goes on to explain. Okay, you're all the Saiyans I've got to work with. This should work. Now, I need to introduce myself. I'm Bardock, one of the last surviving Saiyans. I brought you all here for one purpose, to help me take down the tyrant Frieza, and to avenge our race, and save the galaxy. With the group having a very mixed response, the likes of Paragus, being the only one who knows who Frieza is, looks pretty scared and confused. However, the other 3 just looked completely confused. Bardock trying to talk it on and trying to, carry on from his little speech. But before Bardock could do anything, he is cut off by the likes of Gine. She sees Goku, and it only takes a few seconds for the woman to figure out that that is her child right there. That is Kakarot. With her grabbing the boy and hugging him, with Bardock kind of laughing at this, having already figured out that Goku was his son, but he was going to wait until later to talk about it. However, he understands his wife is a bit different from him and most other Saiyans. But something strange here is Goku doesn't really understand what's happening. With Gine saying how much he had grown and even saying his name is Kakarot, with Goku looking at Gine unsure of what Kakarot is, asking if it's some sort of food. Gine confused but tries to explain that that is his name. But Goku says that his name is Goku. With Bardock hearing this, he already had an idea that maybe Kakarot had forgotten his Saiyan name. After all, when the dragon asked him, he gave him that Goku name, not Kakarot. But Bardock wasn't sure of how much he had forgotten. Soon learns that Goku doesn't remember anything about the Saiyans, and Bardock realizes that this is going to be a pain. He sighs a bit, and he begins to explain to Goku what he is and who he is. Goku finds this kind of interesting for a few seconds, as after all that explains why he's got a tail, and that explains why he's always feels strong after losing. It fills in a lot for him. However, he's also not too bothered, with him explaining how he would like to get back to training with Kami, so he can win the tournament in a few years. At this point, Bardock puts his head in his hands. He's annoyed and confused, and decides to leave Kakarot for a few minutes. With Bardock getting back to the other Saiyans, he explains how he plans on defeating Frieza to avenge their race, so the monster is no longer a threat to the galaxy. With them needing to get a lot stronger first, though, so they will spend some time training to defeat him. But Goku catches this, with Goku saying, "If you're training, I'll join. I can already tell that you're incredibly strong, and that big guy there is really strong as well." With Goku pointing at Broly, with Goku taking another second to sense energy before getting ready to point at Nail, but upon seeing Nail, he gets ready to fight. This confuses the hell out of Nail, who asks the boy what he's doing, with Goku saying how he looks just like the Demon King, Piccolo, with Nail asking for Goku to describe what this demon looked like. Goku gives a description of Demon King, Piccolo, with Nail figuring out that Earth seems to have its own Namekians, with Goku then thinking that Kami also kind of looked like this guy, so the boy drops his guard a little bit. With all of this done, Bardock spends some time getting to know the Saiyans in front of him. He decides to start with the two youngest Saiyans, being Goku and Tarbell, who both seem very different from normal Saiyans. Goku seems like a mixture between himself and Gine, and Tarbell seems to be very quiet and not keen on fighting. But the issue with Bardock with these two is that they are incredibly weak. They're going to need a lot of training to catch up, and he does wish they were just a small bit stronger. However, he doesn't mind, he will help them catch up. And he hopes that Nail will also spend time catching the boys up. Bardock heading over to meet up with Paragus and Broly. With Bardock already knowing the likes of Paragus a little bit, he gets to know Broly. Bardock realizing how different Broly is from normal Saiyans as well. It seems this generation of Saiyans is fairly different from what Bardock is used to. But Broly also seems to have a lot of power in him, with Bardock being able to sense this. With Bardock having gotten to know everyone a little bit, he asks the group if they are all willing to help him beat Frieza. Paragus is unsure, and by this happening, this leads to Broly being unsure. Tarbell isn't confident as a person, but the likes of Goku shouting out that he will help manages to rally the likes of Broly, who likes Goku's attitude. And when Broly joins, the likes of Tarbell joins, not wanting to be a coward. Once these three agree, the likes of Paragus also reluctantly joins. Bardock smiles at this, looking towards his son, with him proud that he managed to rally all the troops. And Bardock says how they will start their training tomorrow, but for now they celebrate the rebirth and the revenge of the Saiyan race. With the Saiyans heading back to Bardock's hut, they all get to know each other over the night. Gine spends as much time as possible with her son, with Goku liking Gine quite a bit, but the boy wants to spend more time with the stronger people here, the likes of Broly and Bardock, Tora, with Bardock liking Goku's attitude, but finding it a little bit annoying. Goku's very happy-go-lucky and he's kind of high energy, but Goku actually connects quite well with the likes of Tarbell and Broly. These three make quite a quick little group fast. Goku and Tarbell are around the same age and they're around the same strength, meaning that Goku and him got on pretty well from the get-go. And Broly is a big softie which Goku would love, and the three become very good friends very fastly. With Tora and Bardock trying to bring Paragus into the clique of Tora, Bardock, and Nail, Paragus is very distant, clearly not a talkative person, so they leave him be. However, the likes of Guinea takes a note of how Broly acts around Paragus. With all Saiyans having a massive feast and sleeping through the night, the next day comes around. Bardock getting up and expecting to have to wake some people up, he sees the likes of Goku is already up and he's outside doing a workout. Bardock is impressed to see this and asks Kakarot how does he know how to do all of this. Goku goes on to explain how he was taught by the turtle master, Master Roshi, years ago. That's why he's so strong. Well, not compared to him or that Broly guy, but he's one of the strongest people on Earth. But he's happy to see that there are more people out in the universe this strong. It just means he's got so much room to grow. With Bardock realizing that his son can sense energy, he asks what else he can do. With Goku showing off a small ki blast, being the Kamehameha, Bardock is impressed and actually realizes that his son may not be incredibly strong, but he has some techniques that the Saiyans never would have had. And soon Bardock wakes up the others and he explains how everyone's training will be going, with him saying how they will be training in separate groups. He goes on to explain how himself, Tora, and Broly will be a group. He then turns his attention towards Nail, asking if the Namekian would start training the younger Saiyans and Paragus. Nail, a bit annoyed that he won't be training with Bardock, he does agree. He doesn't mind teaching the younger ones, and Nail has a bit more patience to do this. Soon, all Saiyans start training. With them training for the first half of the day, they do spend time meditating. Learning to suppress ki and sense energy, some things that will be useful in a fight. However, the likes of Goku does this very easily. This is stuff he already sort of knows how to do, so he just needs to refine it more. And Bardock is happy to see his son getting this. And also, Tarble has a pretty easy time with this. This is quite relaxing, and he quite likes it. Guinea takes a liking to Tarble from a very early point as well, seeing that she and him are a bit similar. These Saiyans are very different from what Bardock was expecting to get, but this might be the best group he could have asked for. Some of them are already pretty strong, some of them are weak but have some idea of what they're doing. The only real weak one is Tarble, who doesn't really understand how to sense ki, and also isn't that strong, meaning that he has to learn and grow stronger all at the same time. But he's picking things up pretty fast, so he can't complain too much. With everyone sort of getting into a routine where they'll train intensely during the first half of the day, and then they will do some light training and some meditation during the later half of the day. Now, during this time, some more houses would be built so they all have a place to stay, with Goku and Tarble pretty much staying in the same house as Bardock and Guinea, with Tarble kind of being adopted by this family to some sense. Now, bringing up Tarble and Goku, these two get on really well together, hence why I have a series about this. But the two form a brotherly bond quite fast, and it's not just those two. Broly's also involved in this, seen as the big, strong older brother, and the three can often be seen playing with one another, where the likes of Goku and Tarble will chase after Broly, trying to catch up with him, with this leading to them actually passively getting stronger. After all, Goku wouldn't want to not train, so he finds a way to make it into training, thinking back to how Master Roshi taught him. And this does lead to Tarble and himself getting a good bit faster. With the three all really getting on with one another, Paragus is still very distant from everyone. He doesn't like the idea of fighting Frieza. He doesn't know that Vegeta is alive, however he has heard that they are the surviving Saiyans that he has remaining. So he does believe that Prince Vegeta, King Vegeta, Planet Vegeta have all been destroyed. And this leads to him being a bit more bearable to be around. However, he's still getting nervous at the thought of fighting Frieza. But he will play along for now, and if things go south, he will join Frieza in a heartbeat, not even having to think about it. With Bardock kind of knowing that Paragus is distant, he never really bonds with the guy. Tora, Nail, and himself all do get along well, so it's not like they need a new member, plus Guinea's still sort of part of this little group as well. Now, Guinea during this time wouldn't be training, but she would most likely be helping teach how to sense energy and how to suppress it to the younger Saiyans, and also making the food for the group, as that's what she likes doing. 6 months go by, and everyone in this group has gotten a lot stronger. The likes of Goku and Tabo have grown incredibly strong. It seems like these two have a lot of potential in them to grow stronger. Goku has pushed himself harder and actually managed to climb the rankings quite a bit, not being the weakest anymore, in fact, nearly being one of the stronger ones. With Tabo nipping at the teeth underneath Goku, Guinea is now the weakest, followed by Paragus. However, the rankings at the top are probably pretty similar, and I'll go through them now quickly. The order that we originally had would be Bardock, Broly, Nail, Tora, Paragus, Guinea, Tarbell, Goku. However, now we see a much different order. Bardock still leads the pack, but he is being chased up by the likes of Broly, who, thanks to his incredible potential, caught up pretty fast. Following along behind Broly by a good chunk is Tora, who has been training hard but just can't catch up. Behind Tora would be Nail, who has not really have the same advantages as the Saiyans, but he is still incredibly strong. Following up behind Nail pretty closely is Goku and Tabo, with the pair being around the same strength, with Goku just being a little bit ahead. Following along behind the two boys would be Paragus. Paragus has gotten stronger in this time, yes, but he hasn't been taking this training as seriously. And finally would be Gine, who has only grown a small amount thanks to the fact she's only training a small amount. With all of this time having passed, Bardock believes that they won't need much longer, and hopefully they can head off into space soon.
1 year and 6 months later, where we see three blurred figures rush across a body of water. They appear and disappear faster than we can see. And after a while, soon a massive clash happens, making the whole body of water ripple, and we see the likes of Goku, Broly, and Tarbell. The likes of Goku and Tarbell having aged up here. The three of them smirk and continue on their training, with the likes of Bardock and Tora and Nail training together as well, with the group having already set their minds that this is the last day of their training. This is the last bit they will train before the battle with Frieza. So everyone's pushing themselves a little bit harder than normal today. Now, while all of these are training, the likes of Paragus is the only Saiyan not training right now. He has kept his distance from the group. No one knows why, but they left him to it. He has also skipped out on a lot of training, which caused some arguments between Bardock and Paragus. However, Paragus always pointed out how Guinea didn't take part in every training session, which tend to get Bardock to shut up. Now, after a while of training, the group call it an end for today. They need to save some energy for tomorrow, and they all head off to rest for the night, having kind of a party in preparation. Now, with the likes of Goku, Broly, and Tarbell, none of them sleep straight away. They talk through the night. Goku shares stories from Earth, which is something he has done to the pair multiple times throughout the year, with the pair having heard about everyone, everything, all that Goku had done on the planet, and this has made the two really want to visit. Alongside this, Goku has shared stories about his tournaments, his battles, the people he knows, and it has made them more interested. And the tournament is something they really have become interested in. You see, Goku wants to make it back to Earth before the 23rd Tenkaichi Budokai comes around, so he can take part in it and hopefully win this time around. With Broly and Tarbell having heard about tournaments before, they are also interested in taking part. They want to see what it's like. So they all agree that after they beat Frieza, well, if they beat Frieza, they will head off to Earth and see the planet. Eventually they fall asleep and the next day comes around. Bardock is the first one up, and he sits outside his house, meditating, running through his plan. He isn't sure if cold will be there, and cold could truly be an issue. And he doesn't know if Frieza can truly transform, but he believes in them. After all, this is what he's been preparing for years. With Bardock having collected his thoughts, he heads off to wake everyone up, with him quickly rounding up the group, saying to all of them, "Alright, everyone, we know what today is. I've been thinking about this day for years. I've spent years training for it, and so have you. I don't know how this battle will go, or what will happen to us, but I believe we can win this, and if not, we will at least die for our race. I'm proud of all of you." With the group hearing this, they don't know how to feel, but the excitement on Goku's face and his cheer of excitement at the end of his father's speech
Does get the group's spirit up a good bit. Gine is the only Saiyan who has been chosen to stay on Namek. She isn't a fighter, and she is just too far behind to be heading to this battle. Alongside this, Bardock wants her back here just in case an emergency happens. With the group all getting ready to leave, with the likes of Gine summoning the dragon and making 3 wishes, in this order. She first wishes for the location of Frieza, with Prunga telling her the location. Gine, hearing this, wishes for all Saiyans other than herself to be teleported to that location. The group disappearing right in front of her eyes, she then tells Prunga that for her final wish, she wants all of them to be brought back here in 1 hour. Prunga grants this wish and teleports away. Now, on the planet, the group of Saiyans appear in a dining area. The group looking around, they see a lot of Frieza's men, but something which wasn't part of this plan. Something the rest of them weren't ready to see. This is the rest of the Saiyans. The likes of Raditz and Bardock lock eyes. Bardock was not expecting to see his son, and he looks at him with a hint of happiness in his face, whereas Raditz looks in confusion. But there's something else which is happening. The likes of Paragus sees Vegeta, and a wicked smile appears on his face. Vegeta trying to figure out what his brother is doing here. He is soon caught off guard by Paragus, who rushes at Vegeta at his maximum output, and he begins to beat into the prince without stopping. With the likes of Vegeta unable to fight back against Paragus, he takes the beating. With the likes of Nappa trying to save his friends, but he just can't. He just ends up getting beat as well. Paragus screams out in joy, loving every moment of this, but it only lasts for a few seconds. As soon, Tarbell, not wanting his brother to die, rushes in to try and help him. With Tarbell being more than strong enough to deal with Paragus on his own, he begins to defend Vegeta and Nappa and push away Paragus. With the pair beginning to have a battle, Bardock screams out how this isn't part of the plan. The Saiyans panicking a bit now, they try to come up with an idea. Tora spends a bit of time sensing around the planet, trying to find Frieza, but the distraction of all the power levels happening around him is a bit difficult to find. While this is happening, the likes of Raditz rushes over to his father, trying to figure out what's going on. Bardock, in a bit of a fast explanation, explains everything very vaguely. Raditz, kind of understanding, just sort of watches. While this is also happening, the likes of Goku and Broly rush over towards the battle, getting in between Tarbell and Paragus, with Broly holding his father away, trying to figure out what's going on. With Paragus not saying anything, just deadlocked on Vegeta, he keeps trying to attack and kill him, while Goku talks to Tarbell and also defends the prince, who is pretty much half dead at this point. Goku talks to Tarbell trying to figure out what's going on. However, soon, a shout of "Brace yourself!" goes from the air from Tora, as everyone soon senses a massive power appear, as a massive explosion goes off, destroying the building, killing all the Frieza soldiers. Tarbell, in a panic, tries to protect his brother and Nappa, while Bardock defends Raditz. Soon, the massive explosion ends. Loads of Frieza soldiers were killed, and from the looks of it, Nappa didn't survive the attack. The damage Paragus had already done to him just didn't help. With Raditz confused at what just happened, he looks at everyone who's just staring up. With Raditz looking up there himself, he sees the likes of Frieza staring down the group. With Raditz nervous as hell, he looks over to his father, who had taken a bit of damage from tanking the blast for his son. He looks really confused and concerned. With the likes of Bardock telling Raditz to get out of here, grab a pod, and head to a planet called Namek. Raditz agrees to do so and rockets off towards the ship section. With the group now in a bit of a better position where they don't have to defend someone, they all look around to one another. Frieza sees that some of the Saiyans had already taken some damage, seeing how Tarbell, Paragus, and Bardock had all taken some damage. With Frieza asking who this group is, and Bardock's the one to respond, shouting out, "We are some of the last Saiyan race, and we are here to kill you and avenge our people." With the rest of the group nodding, Frieza suddenly remembers the likes of Tora, who in this timeline fought off Frieza much like Bardock did in canon. The Emperor is confused at how he missed this many Saiyans, and also how that one's back alive. He remembers hearing his cries of pain as he died. However, he doesn't mind killing Race once more. It's not very often he gets to do that. With Frieza shooting a death beam straight towards the likes of Vegeta, who is hardly awake right now, Tarbell jumps out in front and blocks the blast. Frieza didn't put enough power into it and wasn't expecting anyone to be able to deflect it. With Frieza seeing this, he's shocked and looks at the group, interested. He says, "It seems you monkey are stronger than I have ever imagined. I guess what my scouter picked up was right. You are in the low millions, which is impressive for your kind, but no problem for me in my final form. You won't stand a chance against me now." With the group looking at Frieza, they all get ready to fight. With Frieza laughing, he throws another death beam straight towards Tarbell, but this time he puts a lot more power in it, with it piercing Tarbell's arm, knocking the Saiyan to the ground. Both Goku and Broly see this, rush straight towards Frieza, both enraged. Broly, having gained some control over himself over the years, doesn't lose himself, and luckily can keep fighting. The pair catch Frieza off guard thanks to their pretty high power, and they begin to land some good hits on him thanks to the fact these two have trained together for years and they are able to work with one another fairly well. Now, once these two have gone in, the likes of Paragus stares down Vegeta, who is currently being protected quite heavily by the very injured Tarbell, who at this point is lost the use of one of his arms and has taken a lot of damage. While staring down Vegeta, the likes of Tora and Bardock fly straight towards Frieza, with the two helping out Broly and Goku in the battle against him. With Frieza not expecting so much pushback from the group, the four manage to land some pretty good hits in, and Frieza is soon getting pushed back quite hard. With Bardock shouting out for Paragus to join in the fight, however Paragus ignores the shouts from Bardock as he begins to rush straight towards Tarbell. The young Saiyan, hardly able to stand at this point, gets ready to fight, and he fights through his injuries, with him being able to hold off Paragus still. However, the gap they used to share is now closed. Tarbell now being around the same level as Paragus in terms of power, thanks to the injuries he has taken. With the pair beginning to clash, Bardock curses out at Paragus, and he continues on his battle with Frieza. Bardock wants to go help Tarbell. He has grown quite fond of him, however he is stuck in combat with Frieza. So do Goku and Broly. They both want to help, but they can't leave this battle until Goku has an idea. With Goku having an idea, he needs to wait for a right opening. So himself, Broly, Tora and Bardock all work together to stay in this fight. With Frieza having to use about 50% of his power to hold off the group, however they are managing to get good hits in, which leads to Frieza getting pretty pissed off. With him starting to power up more, the group feel this, and Goku finally finds his opening. Goku jumps back away and begins to charge up the biggest Kamehameha he can muster up, with Goku taking a few seconds to charge it up before throwing it straight towards the likes of Frieza. The blast makes contact and it begins to send Frieza flying away for miles. Goku begins to rush off in that direction, shouting out how he'll go deal with Frieza, go help Tarbell, with the likes of Broly and Bardock going to help Tarbell, where Tora goes to help his friend's son, and the pair rush off towards Frieza. Bardock and Broly rushing over towards Tarbell and Paragus' battle. Bardock kicks Paragus away, and Bardock then tends to Tarbell, where Broly begins to talk to his father, trying to figure out what he's doing and why he's acting like this. Paragus screams out, "The father of those two princes are the reason we lived on Vampa for years, Broly! Their father was scared of you. Now show them why they should fear you, and kill them. Obey your father." With Broly looking towards his father, confused and kind of angry, he tells him he refuses to hurt Tarbell. He's the best friend he's ever had. Alongside that, Goku is one of his greatest friends, and one of the best people he has ever met. He wouldn't hurt anyone here. These people are his friends, and even though he doesn't know Vegeta, if he's Tarbell's brother, then he can't be all bad. With Bardock having heard what Paragus was saying, he shouts out that that's a stupid reason to want to hurt the two. They had nothing to do with what King Vegeta did. However, Paragus ignores this and screams out respect from his son, saying how he needs to listen to him. However, everything he says is ignored by Broly. With this increasingly frustrating Paragus, he throws the biggest attack he can muster up at Vegeta and Tarbell, but Broly blocks it with ease. He tells his father, "Leave the planet before I have to do something I really don't want to, father. And when you do leave, I never want to see your face again." With Paragus going to argue back, he sees a serious look in his son's eyes and leaves the planet, soon finding his ship and taking off. With Broly apologising for his father's actions, Bardock tells Broly it's fine and he did a really good job, before turning his attention back to Tarbell, who is still protecting his older brother. However, like I said before, Nappa didn't survive the massive explosion from earlier. With Bardock telling Tarbell to go get a ship and send Vegeta off planet, send him to Namek, before hiding for the rest of the hour, Tarbell is about to agree to do so. However, the group soon sends something horrifying. Something the group hope isn't true. Everyone turns their head in the direction of Goku, Tora and Frieza, and see Frieza above the group, holding the motionless body of Goku and the bloody and beaten body of Tora. Frieza throws the body of Goku down, saying, "I believe this belongs to you," with Goku's body hitting the floor, landing not too far away from the group. Everyone has a look of horror and rage on their face. Frieza laughs at the sight, and he throws Tora's body down as well. Tora isn't completely dead. Goku took a massive attack for Tora, and this led to his survival, but he is in no condition to be fighting, and when he hits the ground, he lets out a cry of pain. With the likes of Frieza once again laughing, he believes he has broke the group's spirit. From what he can see, these ones will be easy, and it looks like these three Saiyans are on the edge of tears. He lets out a laugh once again, getting ready to kill them all with death beams, but Frieza doesn't know what he had done. Suddenly, the planet begins to shake violently. The likes of Bardock, Tarbell and Broly, three are trying to hold back their tears, trying to not show fear, but they're all trying to calm down as well. Broly is feeling rage he hasn't felt in years, and it's bubbling up more than ever, and the group all begin to shake as well. Soon the planet begins to have lightning cracking and bursting all around the area, which is surprising to Frieza. And suddenly, a scream of three fighters grabs his attention. He looks down to see the things he had feared the most, something he had only ever thought there would be one of. He looks down to see the Super Saiyans. However, Broly seems different from the likes of Tarbell and Bardock, and Broly, unlike the other two, has no control. He rushes straight towards Frieza and begins to beat into the likes of him with no regard. Tarbell and Bardock spend a moment trying to collect themselves, trying to get a grip. Bardock and Tarbell both manage to do it, but Tarbell loses the Super Saiyan form just as fast as he gained it. His injuries were too much and he couldn't hold the form for any longer than he already did. With Bardock telling the likes of Tarbell to get Vegeta and Tora out of here, he and Broly will deal with Frieza. Tarbell nods and rushes off. With Bardock seeing Broly beating into Frieza mercilessly, he rushes up to begin to help Broly. He wants to get his punches in too, for his son. With Bardock feeling the worst about the death of Goku, after all, he brought him into this fight, his own son. He needs to get his hits in. Now, Broly is easily overpowering Frieza here. Every hit feels like it's going to tear straight through Frieza, and once Bardock gets in, Frieza has no chance of surviving. And the pair begin to beat into Frieza, throwing him around, slamming him into the ground, doing combos of attacks. Broly even almost destroys Frieza with a small ki blast. Besides, Tarbell is helping Vegeta leave the area, telling Tora he'll be back as soon as he can. Tora, hardly alive right now, just watches in awe. The sight of not one, not two, but at some point, 3 legendary Super Saiyans. With the last of his strength, he musters out, "Bardock, I knew you were the right person to save. You, your son, Broly, Tarbell, all of you had the power to defeat Frieza, and that's incredible to me. I'll see you later, my friend, and thank you for avenging us." Tora, at this point, losing every bit of energy he had left to survive, him dying slowly. With Tarbell having dropped Vegeta off on the outside of the battlefield, flies back to grab both Goku and Tara's body. He soon sees that they are both dead now. He cries a bit, grabbing Tara's body, apologising for not getting him out of here sooner. But he soon takes both Tora and Goku away while the battle continues. And he then just sits and watches the battle, unable to help at this point. However, he begins to try his best to reactivate the Super Saiyan form, so he can at least jump in to help. Both Bardock and Broly beginning to beat into Frieza more violently. The likes of Broly throws Frieza around for a little bit before throwing the Emperor into space. Frieza, once getting into space, takes a moment to catch himself and begins charging up the biggest supernova he can muster up, thinking how he'll kill the Saiyans how he killed them before. However, once he throws it, Bardock charges up a right javelin, and Broly gets ready to shoot off a blast. The pair throw them straight towards the supernova, and easily overpower it. Frieza, off in space, soon sees his supernova coming back, and soon it picks up speed, completely engulfing the Emperor, and destroying him completely. This done, Bardock turns towards Broly, who we can sense is still going under quite a bit of strain, with him looking to see Broly is kind of regaining his own control, and Bardock begins to try and coach him through it. Bardock, even though had been in the form for a short time, has had years of meditation on Broly, and is walking him through it as much as he possibly can. Broly at first looks like he's about to attack Bardock, however, he goes to grab him and passes out. The likes of Bardock is shocked and grabs Broly, taking him over to where he can sense Tarbell, and sees that Tora had also died. With him laying Broly down, they just sort of sit there quietly for the next few minutes until they are soon teleported off the planet. Them arriving on Namek, they are greeted by both Guinea and Nail, who are happy to see the group alive, but don't get a better look. Broly's unconscious body is being carried by Bardock, while Tora's body and Goku's body are being carried by Tarbell. Guinea, seeing this, runs over, asking what happened, and begins to cry at the sight of her motionless son's body, and begins to grip onto him, trying to do something to wake him up, crying, as Bardock begins to explain everything that happened. With Nail and Guinea hearing this, they look around and realise that Paragus hasn't shown up. Nail says how he probably rejected coming back, and this makes Bardock angry. Bardock thinks that if Paragus had just stuck to the plan, they could have won. They could have avoided all this death and destruction, but that didn't happen. And unfortunately, Paragus managed to live. If Bardock ever sees him again, he won't hold back. With the likes of the group spending a bit of time talking, Bardock does share a bit of good news. The fact that the likes of Raditz is on his way to Namek, alongside this, Prince Vegeta is also on his way. Tarbell and Bardock having put Vegeta in a pod set towards Namek, he should be arriving soon. And the groups begin to spend some time mourning, and it's just a happy, sad moment. They're happy they finally killed Frieza, but they just don't feel like it was a win. Tarbell is happy at least that Vegeta's alive, but he lost his closest friend. Bardock's sad because he lost his son and his friend. And Broly, when he does wake up, is feeling terrible. Not only is Goku dead, not only is Tora dead, but his father might have been the cause of it, and he hates that feeling. The group spend some time mourning, or at least they try to. Only an hour after making it back to Namek, they hear two familiar voices speaking to them. Hey guys, how you doing? With everyone beginning to look around desperately for Goku after hearing his voice, but they can't find him. You should explain how you're talking to them, Kakarot. Goku kind of nervously laughing, remembering that it probably wouldn't make sense to them. He goes on to explain this. You see, when you die, you come to this place, apparently. I don't really get it, but it seems pretty interesting. And I'm assuming Mom and Tora had been here before. Tora said he didn't actually get to see this place, he just went to hell. But Mom, you might have gone to heaven, I'm pretty sure. Now, once I arrived, I got told because of the good deeds I've done for Earth, for the universe at the moment, I was allowed to go train under someone called King Kai if I wanted to. And I did. But then I saw someone familiar. I saw Tora, and I went over to him, and I sat with him for a little bit. Found out that he believes he would probably be going to hell. So me and him cut the queue a little bit, and I managed to convince the big guy up front to let Tora come train with me at King Kai's. This way I have someone to train with, and I won't be bored by myself. Also, it means he will be a bit stronger when we get back, and hopefully we'll come back stronger than this Frieza guy. But I want to get straight to training, so I'll talk to you all in a bit. With everyone hearing this, they laugh a bit, but before Goku leaves, he shouts out to his son, Kakarot, I'm sorry you died, but as soon as I can, I will bring you back. Then you, me, your mother, and Raditz, we can all be a family again. Goku, hearing this, laughs, saying how he's excited to meet Raditz. But Goku brings up the fact Bardock forgot to mention some people, with Goku saying how Broly, Tora, and Tarbell are all family as well, which gets a smile out of the Saiyans, and gets Goku punched in Otherworld by Tora. This makes the group happy to hear Goku and Tora are okay, and it makes the day a small bit better. The group spend a bit more time grieving before they start to wait around until the Dragon Balls are reactive. The likes of Bardock, Tarbell, and Broly all try to learn the power of the Super Saiyan that they have once activated. Broly at first is nervous about using his power, but the next time he uses the form, he actually has a really good hold on it, and he doesn't rage out like he did. He believes that the only reason he raged out is because of what Frieza did. And now a month passes. The likes of Bardock, Tarbell, and Broly have all made really good progress with the Super Saiyan form, and have learnt to control it really well. They'll kind of use it on command. And another thing happens during this time. The likes of Raditz and Vegeta appear on the planet. Raditz makes it there first, and once he lands, he's very hostile at first. However, once he sees his father, he calms down a bit and learns about what has been happening on Namek and hears the full story properly. Alongside this, Gine has never been so happy in her life. She knows that Goku is dead, but she can't help but smile looking at her baby boy Raditz, with her hugging him and all sorts. It is happy to be accepting this, but he does push his mother away a bit. He wants to try and keep his Saiyan pride there. And soon, Raditz, like I said, hears the story, with him happy to know that they have won and defeated Frieza. Not long after Raditz had arrived, soon Vegeta shows up, who is in pretty bad condition, but after a quick heal from some Namekians, he is brought back to full, and much like Raditz, has everything explained to him. Vegeta is shocked to hear his wimpy younger brother had become a Super Saiyan, and soon the two begin training with the others. And the training gets pretty intense. They are massively behind but try their best to catch up over the next 2 months. And they don't do too bad of a job. Now, 3 months pass since the battle with Frieza, and the Dragon Balls are once again active, with the group collecting them and summoning the dragon, bringing back Goku and Tora, who appear on the planet, seeming a lot stronger than what they were when they died. And before the group celebrate, they know they have one more wish. With Vegeta having heard about the Dragon Balls, he wants to wish for immortality, and had brought it up to Tarbell on a separate occasion. Tarbell and Vegeta have gotten pretty close here, thanks to the fact that Tarbell is a pretty happy fighter in this timeline. Vegeta doesn't see him as a massive wimp, but he's more like Goku than he is like a Saiyan. Tarbell had luckily talked his brother out of it, saying how it would be boring being able to just never die and never, have a good fight. With this tickling Vegeta's battle preference, it does work a little bit. And he also, doesn't want his brother to get it anyway, because Vegeta and Raditz aren't good yet. They've only been with the group for a small amount of time. It's slowly happening, but it's not quite fast enough. Now, with everyone being back, no one knows what to wish for. Everyone does rush over to hug Goku and see Tora, with Broly, Bardock, Gine, and Tarbell all super happy to see Goku again. With Bardock happy to see Tora as well, the group spend a little bit of time catching up before Porunga gets a bit impatient and asks for their third wish. And this is where the group have to spend a bit of time thinking. Bardock never really had a plan to do after he won against Frieza. However, Goku looks over to the other Saiyans with a smile. I think it's nearly the 23rd Tenkaichi Budokai. It can't be long until it anyway. I think it would be all really fun if we all took part in it. It's a tournament and there's a prize winning at the end and you become the strongest on Earth for a little bit. It's really cool and I think it would be really cool if we all took part. I've never won one, but I think I can win this time. Plus, I can show you all the great food we have on Earth and all my friends down there. I'm sure Bulma would give you all a place to live, or you could all come stay with me. I don't really mind, but I just think it would be fun to have fighters as strong as you on Earth. With Goku smiling, saying this, everyone is shocked except for Broly and Tarbell. They obviously agree, they've been wanting to go for years. However, Bardock is really unsure. After all, Namek had become a second home for him. Alongside this, he doesn't know what Earth is like, or if Vegeta and Raditz could be trusted on a planet with, lower power levels than Namek does. With Bardock visibly looking confused, Goku says, I don't know about Vegeta, and I don't know Raditz, and I want to get to know you, but I know the rest of you guys will love it there. With Guinea looking at Bardock with a smile on her face, with her saying, if we go to Earth, we could start again, as a full family. Bardock, hearing this, smiles at the idea. He begins to ask the group what they want to do, saying how he will follow along. Tora says how he will follow Bardock and is forever in his debt. Tarbell and Broly say how they are already on their way to Earth. With Raditz and Vegeta just wanting to learn the Super Saiyan form, say they will go wherever they can train to learn it. And this means everyone agrees to go to Earth. The likes of Bardock turns to Nails with a smile on his face, and a bit of sadness. Thank you, and all the Namekians on this planet, for giving me a second chance. You have truly been a great friend, Nail. Nail smiles as the pair share a handshake, before Bardock speaks up and wishes for all Saiyans present to be sent to Goku's home, Earth. We see our heroes on Earth, with Goku taking a moment to sense the power of everyone on the planet. And he grows a massive grin on his face. He welcomes everyone to his home, telling them that they don't have to wait long until the tournament, so they should get some training done, with the others sensing the planet, realizing that there is no one here on their level in the slightest. And this makes them question Goku. However, Goku explains that this would be a great way for them to figure out who is the strongest out of all of them. With most of them liking the idea of this, they all agree to join. It could be some fun. With Goku getting them used to camping out at his small hut, everyone just gets into everyday life as staying up in the mountains with Goku and get used to it pretty fast. The likes of Vegeta and Raditz only really stick around so they can be near Bardock, Tarbell and Broly to learn more about the Super Saiyan form. With Goku and Tora doing the same, with the group spending quite a lot of their time on the planet training to unlock the Super Saiyan form. And soon, the day of the 23rd Tenkaichi Budokai comes around, and the group head off towards the tournament grounds, with Vegeta and Raditz having changed a bit over this time, with them being slightly better people and more okay with being on Earth. With a large group arriving at the entrance to the tournament, this is where Goku sees some familiar faces, with them being Roshi, Bulma, Launch, Oolong and Puar. We're all shocked to see Goku with such a large group. Bulma asks who they are, and Goku introduces everyone. With Bulma's surprise, she says that she thought Goku's only family was Grandpa Gohan. However, Goku goes on to explain that he is a Saiyan, an alien, and gives the history of his race to the group. With them not all too surprised that Goku is an alien, but it's still pretty shocking. However, they are interested in the group behind Goku, with them starting to learn a few names and introduce themselves to the rest of the Saiyans. With the likes of Roshi taking an interest in the likes of Bardock and Guinea, after all these are the parents of one of his greatest students. He's interested to learn about them. He even holds back his normal urges when seeing Guinea, with Bulma taking an interest in the likes of Vegeta, after catching a look at the Saiyan, with her heading over to bother him a bit. With Vegeta having been changed a bit by Tarbell and being around Goku, he doesn't get too violent, but fights back a little bit with a bit of an argument. Bulma obviously is annoyed, but also quite likes this, With the group getting to know one another for a little bit longer, after applying for the tournament itself, Goku asks where Yamcha, Krillin, Tien, Chaozu all are, with Bulma saying how they left to train 3 years ago. Goku hearing this, he is a bit bummed out, however, the arrival of 4 fighters does grab his attention. I'm looking over to see his friends from Earth, with him rushing over to see them, obviously excited, and they're excited to see Goku. He asks what they've been up to and how they've been training, with them stopping Goku, asking where he disappeared to a few years ago, with the 4 having been recruited by Kami once Goku went missing, with Goku running them through what his last few years were like, and explaining how he was training on Namek to fight a tyrant, he went into battle, he died, he went and trained with someone known as King Kai, he learnt a technique or two while he was there. It was all a good time for him. With them shocked to hear this and want to know a bit more, they sign up for the tournament themselves and get introduced to the other Saiyans. Once again, this group is not too surprised to learn that Goku is an alien. After all, the way he acts is just not fully human. With the Earthlings being able to sense that everyone's power is suppressed while talking to them, they are unsure of how much these guys aren't showing off. Right now, everyone is suppressed to an absolute minimum, so it's pretty hard to get a read on where they are. However, before they can even dig too deep, the announcer shouts out for everyone to gather and start for the prelims, with this part going massively different from canon. So let's cover some things, and to save a bit of time, I'm just going to explain that the Saiyans sweep through the tournament, with the other 2 making it through, being Piccolo and Tien. However, Goku still gets engaged to Chi-Chi after she was knocked out at the prelims by Bardock, mistaking him for Goku, confessing her desire to marry him, Bardock explaining that he's not Goku, and Goku introducing himself, and then they got engaged. It was a bit of a mix-up, but it's not Chi-Chi's fault, they do look very similar. Now, the tournament first rounds actually do begin, with the matchups being Broly versus Raditz, Goku versus Tora, Tarbell versus Vegeta, and Bardock versus Piccolo. Piccolo being the only non-Saiyan to make it through. And I'm not covering these fights in detail, but I'll just give a rundown of how they were won. Now, with the first fight, we see Broly winning against Raditz just due to raw power. Raditz couldn't keep up with Broly. Broly is the strongest Saiyan currently. And the group have also decided that there will be no Super Saiyan during this tournament, meaning so only Bardock, Tarbell, and Broly can currently use it. Now, the next round is Goku against Tora, and Goku wins pretty well. They had both gone through the same training with King Kai, however, Goku benefited more from it than Tora did. Next up is Tarbell against Vegeta, and Tarbell pulls ahead of his brother thanks to being stronger than him before Vegeta even started training. Next up is Bardock versus Piccolo, and this is the one fight I'm going to cover with a bit of detail. You see, Bardock knows he can win this with ease, but he decides he wants to learn a bit about Piccolo. This is an Namekian on Earth, so he's a bit confused. So when the match begins, Bardock lets Piccolo have his first few attacks, and then starts speaking to the Namekian in Namekian. With Piccolo speaking back without even realizing, Bardock gives Piccolo a bit of a rundown of what he is, saying he's not a demon, in fact he's something called a Namekian. He's more like a slug than anything. With this putting Piccolo into a bit of a spiral. Bardock starts to learn about Piccolo, what his goals are, with Bardock hearing how Piccolo wants to beat up Goku and take over the world. Bardock smiles, says, "If you want to take over the world, I hope you have the power to deal with me." With Bardock showing off his true power, stunning not only Piccolo, but also the humans who can sense energy. Kami on the lookout is also shocked. With the crowd, who haven't got any fighting capabilities, being blown back massively, the only ones left standing are the humans and Piccolo, who only just managed to catch themselves. With Bardock walking up to Piccolo and pushing him out of the ring, "And just so you know, my son is stronger than me." With Piccolo having not fully registered what has happened, he sits there for a while completely stunned before realizing he has been knocked out of the arena. With him about to shout back at Bardock angrily, Bardock says something. "I sense a lot of potential in you, and if you ever want to become a true threat to my son, come train with me at some point." Before he walks out of the arena having been declared the winner by the announcer and a very confused crowd. The next round soon starts with Broly versus Goku, and this fight is very close. Broly is massively ahead, however, thanks to Goku's training with King Kai and the gravity, he's actually managed to catch up quite a good bit. And even though Super Saiyan was banned, Goku has a technique he can show off here. Goku activates his Kaioken, which gives him a massive edge over Broly. Everyone is shocked and confused by this technique, except for Tora. With Broly now being overpowered by Goku, the Saiyan considers going Super Saiyan, but before he can, Goku has ringed him out. Knowing that this was the only way he could win, he's a bit bummed out, but he tells Broly they'll have a proper fight later. Broly and Goku shake hands, and Goku has a narrow victory over Broly. For Bardock versus Tarbell, the younger Saiyan loses just barely. Thanks to the fact that Bardock's desire to win is a bit stronger than Tarbell's, it led to him winning. The two are pretty level when it comes to power. It was Bardock's fighting experience and his desire to win which gave him the true edge. Leading to the finals, where it's Bardock versus Goku, father versus son, and the duo get very excited and begin to fight. Like I said, the group agreed there'll be no Super Saiyan, so it's just a fight of who's got more base power, with Bardock even telling Goku to not even use the Kaioken during this fight, otherwise he would use the Super Saiyan form. Goku laughs and agrees, and the two start fighting, going all out against one another. Once again, a large amount of the crowd are blown back, and even some of the Earthlings this time are struggling to stay in the crowd. The only ones really able to stick around are Tien and Piccolo, while the others are having to put up a lot of fight to watch this fight. With Goku's training with King Kai giving him a massive boost, he soon overpowers his father and soon wins the match. But the pair fought and smiled through the entire thing, with this making the tournament winner Goku like canon. With the group hanging out shortly after this, with the Z fighters getting to know more about these Saiyans, they're so incredibly strong, and even wanting to train with them. However, the likes of Chi-Chi wanting to get married, pushing Goku to go a bit faster, the pair decide that they'll head off and get married now, with Goku saying this to his family and Gine getting excited. She starts talking to Chi-Chi, with Gine having never been to a wedding, she clearly wants to go. With the likes of Chi-Chi, Goku, Bardock, Gine, Broly, Tora and Raditz all getting ready to leave. Raditz has gotten slightly close with his brother recently, and also is very close with Bardock and wants to learn Super Saiyan from him. Bardock tells Vegeta and Tarbell to come along and they'll go to the wedding and get back to training together. However, Vegeta says how he'll be heading off to train and he's taking Tarbell with him. The small Saiyan's a bit shocked and he laughs, but he agrees. He enjoys the time he spends with his brother. He wishes Goku a good wedding before Vegeta is stopped by Bulma and is told to stop by her place anytime he wants, giving him a small wink. Vegeta gets annoyed by this and grabs Tarbell and flies off. Yamcha's not happy to see this happen, but doesn't say anything. And the Sun family group head off. Now, I'm going to be covering the next 5 years and all the major events that happen in it. Why 5 years? It's clear at the end. Now, things for Goku go mostly normal. He and Chi-Chi get married, and this time the only real major change is all the Saiyans who left with him are present. Soon Goku sets up a home for himself and also helps Bardock, Gine, Tora, Raditz and Broly all set up homes near his. With Gohan being born like normal and still being called Gohan, nothing changes there. All the Saiyans live together up on Mount Paozu and all train together all the time. With Goku, Raditz, Tora all learning Super Saiyan during this time. Alongside this, the likes of Raditz fully turns around, becoming a good guy, thanks to the influence of Goku, Bardock, and much later on, Gohan. Speaking of Raditz, during this time, he has also not only just become good, but started a relationship with a woman he met at the 23rd Tenkaichi Budokai. This being launched, with the pair starting to date during the 5 years. I know this is one of the more generic ones to do, but I have a lot of Saiyans, and not all of them are getting together with people, but I feel like Raditz is just an easy one to do. He's a good looking guy, give him some credit. Gohan is something I want to talk about as well. As he gets older, he would become very close with his grandpa Bardock, who he loves and genuinely enjoys being around, meaning that he would want to try and be a bit more Saiyan-like, and he would convince his mother to let him train. At first, Chi-Chi's against it, but thanks to some talking to from Gine, with the pair having become close over this time, they eventually agree to let Gohan start training, meaning that we have a Gohan who likes training in this timeline. And there's one person who I need to talk about as well, one person who is present during this time, and that is the likes of Piccolo. After thinking Bardock's request over for a month, he eventually joined the group in training, and Bardock saw his potential and wants to hone it very well. He has trained with Namekians all of his life recently, so he wants to continue that trend, and slowly he begins to try and help Piccolo catch up with them. It doesn't ever happen during these 5 years, but he's slowly making ground. And once Gohan starts training, he goes through his character arc once again. Gohan is once again the major influencer here. However, all the Saiyans accountable here would probably have some sort of influence as well. By the end, Piccolo isn't as strong as the Saiyans, but is massively ahead of his canon counterpart. Alongside this, he is probably around the same strength as Gohan, with the two having developed the sort of similar relationship as in canon. However, Gohan's main master is Bardock. Now, with this bit done, over with Vegeta and Tarbell. When they first started training in the Wasteland for the first few months, it didn't take long for Vegeta to soon achieve the Super Saiyan form. With this being Vegeta's goal he had in mind, he is happy, and this mellows him out a good deal. However, the two Saiyans don't stop training. Tarbell kind of likes it now, and he understands that Vegeta won't let him slack off at the moment. With the pair spending some more time training out in the Wasteland, eventually the pair's clothes are completely, utterly destroyed. With them knowing that they need to get a new set, they think how they can do that with no money and no idea of where the hell they are. First, they consider going back to Kakarot's house to get some clothes off him, but Vegeta remembers the stupid clothes he wears and decides against it. Tarbell then remembers all the stories Goku had told him of Bulma and how she's incredibly smart, knowing it to be the girl who flirted with his brother, and figures out that she could probably make them some new Saiyan armor. With Vegeta thinking this might not be a terrible idea, they start traveling the world, trying to figure out where she lives. And one day they do stumble across Capsule Corp, meeting Bulma once again, with the woman happy to fix the pair's clothes and also give them a place to stay, with Tarbell happy to not be sleeping out in the wilderness anymore, and Vegeta being a bit rejecting of it. However, when Bulma offers to make Vegeta a gravity room, like normal, he accepts it happily, with her and Vegeta also hitting it off like normal. Small side note, Trunks is born much, much earlier than canon. He's born 3 years into the time skip. Unfortunately for my main man Tarbell, he's on his own currently. I know it's sad, and all of the Tarbell's fans, all four of us, are upset by this, but I'm hopefully might be able to do something. I don't know. Soon, 5 years pass, and everyone meets up at Kami House. With this part going kind of normal, however, the exception is that pretty much all the Saiyans go along, hearing that they're all going to be going. Goku convinces everyone to go with him, and once Vegeta hears that everyone's going, he wants to go on and show off how much stronger he has gotten. So obviously everyone heads on. The likes of Chi-Chi and Launch also go along with the Saiyans here. Being much more involved, they can go along. And when they arrive, seeing Bulma, the girls start to catch up, with Gine even getting involved. We become very close to Launch and Chi-Chi. Now, while they're talking, the fighters spend time catching up. Krillin is the only human present, however he's become a lot stronger thanks to his goal being a lot stronger, being Goku. Now, while everyone's talking, Goku, Tarbell and Broly catch up. The three are happy to be together once again, and soon they start sparring over the ocean with one another. Them all just doing it to have a bit of a laugh before coming down and talking to everyone once again. Surprisingly, the likes of Vegeta and Raditz even spend a bit of time catching up. Both of them have mellowed out quite a bit, and an oddball to join the group is even Piccolo. He joined in a much later on, having flown there later, but he's joined these two. This seems to be a small group that's forming here, the ones who used to be massive dickheads and now aren't. With everyone having a good laugh, and Trunks and Gohan getting to meet here, in fact. Earth is at a time of peace, and it's really nice for everyone. Bardock has never been happier to say he survived, and is just enjoying his time on Earth with his wife, his sons, his grandson, and just this massive, crazy Saiyan group. Now, while this is a nice catch up, is happening off in space on a planet. We see it shaking, and soon a bright yellow glow emits from the planet. Come down to the planet and see Paragus having achieved something he thought to be legend, with him laughing to himself. After years of training, going off what I could sense alone, I have finally achieved the legend that Bardock, the prince, and my son all achieved. I should hopefully be able to kill them now. With him then sensing a power which is familiar to him, with him turning around to see King Cold, the king puts his hands up and says, "Ah, the Saiyan I heard fled the day my son was killed. I've been searching for you." Paragus is immediately on guard and introduces himself, but soon realizes that even in his base, he outpowers the king. "I know who you are. One of my scouts has kept an eye on you very closely. I know your goal to get revenge on the king, or should I say, the two young princes. So I'm here to give you an offer." With Paragus lifting an eyebrow, he gestures for the king to go on, with Cold saying, "Well, I want revenge for my son's murder, and you want to kill the princes. I believe our destinies were meant to entwine, and I think it would be great if we worked together to get our revenge." Paragus thinks it's over, before saying how Cold won't be able to keep up with the Saiyans. They are massively ahead of him. But Cold already had a counter to this, saying, "Well, with your current power, I do not believe you would be able to beat all of them. You have been training hard, yes, but so have they on that planet Earth. And I have made sure that I keep tracks of them. And I have a plan. As much as it detests me, and as much as I would hate to do it, I believe you and I should train together, just for a little bit, to surpass those stupid Saiyans. Then we can go to this planet and destroy all of them, without even having to try. Would you like to take my deal?" With Cold putting his hand out, Paragus is reluctant. Then he thinks at how fast his son grew, thinking and knowing that if he was to put up a fight that could kill Tarble or anyone there, his son would kill him without a thought. He soon shakes his hand and explains to Cold that he will not be taking any orders. I would explain how that's fine, and they will get to training almost immediately. In the age 762, where all our heroes have grown incredibly strong. However, they aren't our current focus. Out in space, we see one of Frieza's planets, or as it is now, one of Cold's planets. We see the team of Paragus, Cold, the Ginyu Force, and a last member, Cooler, all training with one another. The Ginyu Force is slightly outmatched here, however they're keeping in thanks to their good teamwork. Now these 8 have been training together for a few months, and over this time they have all grown incredibly strong. Paragus has grown amazingly strong, thanks to some great Zenkais from all these battles, some of which were self-inflicted. Now, the person I want to talk about the most, and the person people are most interested in, is Cooler, since at first he isn't canon, and people are probably wondering why he's here. And you see, after Cold had recruited Paragus and trained with him for a few months, he decided they need just a small bit more power. So he searched for his other son and made a deal with him, saying how if Cooler was to assist him in the upcoming battle against Earth, he will give him full control of the Cold Force. Of course, Cold doesn't want to run this force anymore, hence why he handed it down to Frieza. He gives the responsibility of the Force to Cooler, as long as he helps assist in the battle on Earth. Cooler decides to take this deal, as he joins them in training. The Cooler Force is not training, but are present. As he joins them training, this leads to them all growing a lot stronger. As for the standing amongst the group, right now, Cooler is the strongest. Paragus follows along behind, then it goes Cold, Ginyu, Jason Berta are level, Raccoon, and Guldo. They are all feeling prepared after their time of training, ready for their siege on Earth, with them heading towards the planet. The reason they know of the planet's location is thanks to Goku always speaking of the planet, eventually leading to Paragus learning of it, and after a bit of searching, he found it. Now, after a short bit of travel towards the planet, they arrive, and they don't bring any foot soldiers with them. They are the only ones present in this ship. And once they arrive on the planet, they begin to sense round. Remember, Paragus knows how to sense and suppress ki. This would be something he taught to everyone here, meaning their arrival goes unnoticed. After searching around the planet for energy for a little while, they soon split off. Paragus is the only one who heads away from the group, heading towards the power of the two princes, while the others head towards Mount Paozu, where the rest of the Saiyans are located. Saiyans not being able to sense the arrival of this means that they aren't raising any alarms and aren't even ready for any upcoming battles, and this is thanks to them keeping their power super low. Eventually, the Cold Squad arrives at Mount Paozu and see the Saiyans training with one another. Cold is annoyed to see the people who killed his son living so casually, and knows exactly which one is the one responsible for his son's murder, that being Bardock and Broly. Now, while Cold is annoyed, Cooler is laughing to himself, thinking how it's funny how his brother died to such primitive creatures and such weak Saiyans. Now over with Paragus, he arrives at Catchall Corp, walking through the streets, pretty undetected. After all, other than his tail, he looks pretty much like a human. With him being able to sense Vegeta and Tarbell sparring inside of Catchall Corp, he senses some other small energies, and another one which is slightly bigger than the rest, but he doesn't think too much of it. With Paragus taking a few minutes to locate himself in the correct spot, he throws a huge blast towards the building. One big enough to wipe out the gravity chamber in one swoop and also take a large chunk of Capsule Corp with it. Vegeta and Tarbell, having sensed this, did put their guard up and raise their energy, having blocked a small bit of the attack, however still taking a large amount of damage from this. After the explosion has settled, Paragus begins to raise his energy up, which warns the Saiyans at Mount Paozu that Paragus is here. All of them recognizing his ki, get ready to rush off, but just before they can, 7 huge powers appear right in front of them. Cold, Cooler, and the Ginyu Force show themselves out of the forest. With Bardock, Tora, and Raditz knowing these threats in front of them, they take a fighting stance, but also kind of drop it. They're not sure why they're here and why they're so confident, but they do know that these people are in fact weaker than Frieza. Cold says, "Well, that isn't a very friendly introduction, monkeys. But I won't lie, I wasn't planning on doing any pleasantries myself. I'm here just to avenge my son." Cold then powers up. His power is incredible. This is something they weren't expecting. After all, the last time they knew Cold, he was either weaker or around the same strength as Frieza, but this power is immense. With Cooler and Ginyu's also powering up, it causes the planet to shake. The Saiyans watch on in horror, and Goku shouts out for his wife to get their son and head out of here, with him then shouting for his mother to grab launch and get out of here as well. Telling them both to hide, the pair hesitate, however the sound of Goku's ki flaring up into his Super Saiyan state grabs their attention and breaks them out of their trance. They nod their heads and leave, with the people they needed to grab. Goku then turns his attention towards Cooler, whose power is the highest, with everyone taking a moment, but soon start powering up. Even Piccolo begins to increase his power. Bardock shouting up, "Splitting into teams. Me and Toro will deal with Cold. Kakarot, you, Broly, and your brother deal with Cooler. Piccolo, I'm sorry, but until the Earthlings get here, you'll have to deal with the Ginyu Force on your own. Be careful. Ginyu can swap bodies with you, and the small one can pause time, so stay on guard." Piccolo nods his head and laughs. "This will be a good warm-up." With this being done, the other Saiyans transform into their Super Saiyan state and rush into their battles. Goku, Broly, and Raditz all swarm Cooler, with the Frost Demon casually blocking the attacks from 2 of the fighters. However, a hit from Raditz breaks through, hitting the demon across the face. This makes the Saiyans smile as Cooler goes rocketing away, and Raditz soon chases after him. Goku and Broly follow along behind Raditz, and the 3 feel confident in the fact they can win this battle. However, Cooler collects himself and fires off an I-beam towards Raditz, hitting the Saiyan in the face and causing him to crash straight into the ground. Goku slows down, helping his brother up, while Broly continues his rush towards Cooler. The demon throws a punch, and so does Broly. The 2 fists collide, and the 2 begin to let out power. Broly screaming, exerting as much power as he possibly can, while Cooler follows along with him, letting out more power, eventually matching Broly and soon outpowering him, causing Cooler to win this clash, knocking Broly back. With Cooler then sensing the power of Goku and Raditz behind him, he turns around to see the 2 about to land a hit on him. Cooler quickly ducks underneath both attacks and grabs Goku by the leg, spinning him around and throwing him straight into Raditz, the 2 flying away. The pair quickly catch themselves and fire off two blasts. Goku shoots off a Kamehameha and Raditz fires a double Sunday. The two attacks merge and hit Cooler dead on, sending Cooler flying away, smashing through Goku's house even. Goku thinks how pissed Chi-Chi will be later, but soon gets ready to fight once again. He senses the power of Cooler before it disappears. With him then hearing a grunt from Broly, he looks over to see Cooler had hit his friend in the gut, and has actually then slammed him into the ground. Goku is amazed at the speed of Cooler, however he doesn't have time to dwell. With him and Raditz rushing back into battle once again, Broly pulls himself out of the ground and also rushes in to help. The three begin a clash against Cooler, and it's a pretty stale fight. No ground is gained on either side, they're slowly nudging each other one way. It's a demon. However, it's a clash that is staying stale right now. Over with the cold battle, Toro and Bardock are fighting using everything they have got, with them using things they used to use back in the old days, and this leads to them getting blow after blow after blow on cold near the start. However, the king soon begins to increase his power throughout the fight. At first, it wasn't too much of a problem. However, the Saiyans are soon realizing that they are outmatched here, desperately trying to stay in this fight, with Cold's power eventually capping at an incredible height. The two continue to fight, but they are losing ground very fast. Bardock, seeing that his sons aren't even close to defeating Cooler, knows that he and Tora are on their own for now, but keeps pushing, hoping that Piccolo's fight will go well for him, that Vegeta and Tarbell will be alright on their own. Piccolo's battle with the Ginyu Force is interesting, as Piccolo's power is above that of even Ginyu. However, the Namekian is having a hard time dealing with them, thanks to Ginyu and Gordo having annoying abilities to deal with. So he's having to be careful. Alongside this, it's not a completely easy fight for him. After all, they have amazing teamwork, and it's hard to come around such great teamwork. He's having to find holes in their fighting style, but that's pretty hard, being so they keep changing up how they fight. So for now, the Namekian has to play very defensively, only getting hits in every now and again, with him sensing around the planet, feeling that the energy of the Earthlings is slowly approaching. However, he is unsure if their power will be enough to turn the tide of this fight, and they could be more of a burden than anything. But he understands that any help will be an improvement, but he does have a plan to maybe take one of them out. After he gains a bit of ground, he starts retreating, flying into a nearby forest. Of course, the Ginyu Force chase after him, with Piccolo stretching out one of his arms using the trees to hide what he's doing. Ginyu's not noticing what's happening, they continue to chase Piccolo, as one of his arms slowly approaches behind Raccoon, who is the heavy hitter of this group, other than Ginyu. Eventually, Piccolo manages to grab hold of the Ginger Fighter's leg as he starts pulling his arm back, and with his other free hand he shoots off multiple big ki blasts to keep the other Ginyu Force members at bay. With this making sure they keep their distance, Piccolo starts charging up a mouth blast as Raccoon is slowly pulled right towards him. Once Raccoon is right in front of Piccolo, the Namekian fires off his blast straight into Raccoon, which kills the Ginyu Force member there, causing the other members to rage. After all, they would sense his energy disappear, and they are pretty close, after all. With them rushing towards Piccolo, the Namekian is exactly happy with how this went. He wanted them to start fighting sloppier, and being enraged will cause this. With him managing to make them fight enraged, it will give him somewhat of an advantage. However, what he didn't account for is the fact that they would all fight a lot harder. Gordo holds his breath for a lot longer than he should, landing multiple hits on Piccolo, and soon sends him flying once releasing his breath. This causes Gordo to be out of breath for a very long time, and he can't use his ability for a while. But the opening he's given Berta is great. The Speedster uses this chance and lands hundreds of hits in on Piccolo, doing a lot of damage. Piccolo is then once again sent flying off into the forest, crashing through trees. He fires off a Crusher Volcano, however Piccolo has caught himself at this point, and fires off his own attack, stopping it. Piccolo, managing to gain some ground, takes a moment and gets ready to start fighting defensive again. However, the Ginyus are pissed this time, and start fighting him a lot harder. Over at Capsule Corp, both Vegeta and Tarbell have collected themselves after being hurt. This attack did some good damage, however they blocked a good chunk of it. With them having spotted Paragus, Vegeta turns around and shouts into the building, shouting out for Bulma and Trunks without even realising. With both being okay, he sighs in relief. Tarbell's amused by his brother's thoughts, however he soon turns back towards Paragus. Vegeta says, "It looks like the traitor shows himself again. From what I can sense, you brought some friends with you. Tarbell, let's finish this fight and help those others before anything bad happens." Tarbell nods and both turn into a Super Saiyan. Paragus laughs as he turns into a Super Saiyan as well. This shocks the two, however, they don't really think too much of it. With his power being slightly higher than the two princes, it causes Vegeta to laugh, saying how he thought that Paragus would be a threat. He turns to his brother, telling him to head off and help the others, as he can deal with the old man all alone. Darble nods as he rushes off. Paragus watches him fly away, before locking eyes with Vegeta, with him saying, "I'll make you regret that." With the pair clashing, as Vegeta is impressed by the power of Paragus, however he believes himself to be stronger of the two, as the fight continues in the city, as people begin to get evacuated as buildings crumble down around this power. To realizing that these people are in danger, and having gone through a bit of an early character development, decides to donkey kick Paragus out of the city, sending him flying. With Vegeta chasing off after him, he lands another solid hit before the two begin to clash once again. However, the whole time Paragus smiles, it seems like he's got something up his sleeve. Over with the battle between Piccolo and the Ginyu Force. Piccolo has been put on the back foot. Even after taking down Rokurum, the Ginyu Force became more ruthless and are attacking to kill Piccolo, with the Namekian being hurt pretty bad during this. Soon he's put in a tight spot, thanks to Berta and Jace's incredible teamwork, and some good time freezes from Guldo. Ginyu is about to shoot off a blast to kill Piccolo, as the Namekian braces for impact when a shout of "Gallic Gun!" as a purple beam cuts through the air, hitting Ginyu directly, sending him flying away. Piccolo looks up to see Tarbell, who shares a nod with the Namekian before rushing off quick after Ginyu. With two more fighters appearing in Tien and Chaozu, the small human freezes Guldo before he can pause time, giving Tien a chance to quickly kill off the green alien. This freaks out Berta and Jace, who rush towards Tien, going to kill him. But thanks to Tarbell having finished off Ginyu really fast, he intercepts, blocking both attacks and knocking the pair of fighters out before they even get to move. Tarbell then turns towards Piccolo, checking in on the Namekian. He's mostly fine, other than the fact he's drained of a lot of energy. Tien then throws a sensory beam towards Piccolo, who eats it, saying that he needs to head off to help the others, with Tarbell saying that they should go help Bardock and Tora, while he helps Goku and Broly. With them all agreeing, they fly out of the forest, rushing towards the battle. Over with Goku, Raditz, and Broly, they are in a stalemate against Cooler. They are only in this fight thanks to the fact they outnumber the demon, with Tarbell rushing in out of nowhere, hitting Cooler, sending the demon flying away. The trio of Saiyan get a chance to catch their breath, with Tarbell asking if they are okay, causing Raditz to say, "It doesn't matter what we do, his power keeps increasing, and I feel as if he hasn't been hurt yet." Goku says something which shocks them all though. It almost seems he's holding back, causing the other Saiyans to panic a bit. Cooler, hearing this, replies, "I guess you figured out my secret. I didn't want to reveal it just yet, but I guess you do deserve it." With Cooler starting to strain his body, he begins to change and soon turns into his final form, with his power being incredible, something that stops every fight happening on the planet. Thanks to the fact that Cooler had kept this form under wraps, no one, including Cold, knew about it. Cooler disappears and reappears in front of Goku, grabbing him by the throat and throwing him into the ground. Raditz goes to help his brother, however Cooler uses his tail and grabs Raditz by the neck and begins to choke him out, with him then kneeing Broly in the gut and slamming Raditz into the Big Saiyan before turning his attention towards Tarbell, who he grabs by the face. He then begins to punch the Saiyan in the stomach repeatedly. Goku rushes back into the fight and throws a punch towards Cooler. It connects with Cooler's face, however the demon doesn't even budge. Cooler slightly turns his head towards Goku, before smacking him with his tail, sending Goku flying miles away. With Broly and Raditz rushing Cooler once again, Raditz going to hit Cooler, who easily blocks, while Broly grabs hold of Cooler, trying to squeeze down on him, hoping to make him release Tarbell. Cooler laughs as he releases Tarbell and goes to attack Broly, but just as he releases Tarbell, the Saiyan cups his hands together and shouts out, "Final Flash!" releasing the blast so close to Cooler that he also gets caught up in the following explosion, sending himself ragdolling away. However, as the smoke clears, Cooler is still stood there unmoved, but Broly has been sent flying himself. Cooler stands triumphant over the Saiyans, who are barely able to stand. Then once again rushing him, they are easily put back down, and now officially on the ground, unable to get up. Over with Tora and Bardock, they are still losing ground in the battle against Cold. Having sensed Cooler transform, they are worried about the people who are fighting him. However, Cold will not allow them to get a break to help the others, so they are stuck in a dangerous fight. But after Cooler had transformed, Cold did get slightly distracted, and this gives an opening for two fighters in the forest to take an attack. As Piccolo and Tien see their opening, they both fire off their strongest attacks. For Piccolo, it's his special beam cannon, and Tien fires a tri-beam. Both attacks make contact with Cold, dealing massive damage to Cold, giving an opening for Bardock and Tora, who both manage to land very strong attacks and combo off one another for a few seconds. However, they don't manage to put Cold down. As Cold collects himself, he fires an I-beam straight through Bardock's chest, sending the old Saiyan crashing into the ground. Everyone seeing this, they let out a scream for their friend, as Cold easily shoots a blast at both Piccolo and Tien. Sends both crashing into the forest, knocking them out in one hit. With Cold laughing to himself, Tora begins to throw a barrage of punches towards the Emperor. However, nothing phases him, as he quickly puts down Tora with one massive hammer arm, leaving all Saiyans present unable to fight or even move. With Cold starting to approach the slowly dying Bardock, the Ultra Saiyan starts trying to stand and transform, but is unable to. Cold, getting closer to Bardock, eventually kicks the Saiyan, sending him crashing through his and Gine's house, landing him in his bedroom. With Cold continuing to walk towards Bardock, Goku and Raditz manage to stand off in the distance, Goku even managing to power up. However, they are soon put back down by Cooler, with the pair shouting out for their father and even Broly shouting out for Bardock. Bardock pulls himself up to his feet once again, but a small ki blast from Cold sends him flying through the rest of his home, where he crashes into a tree. When he crashes, he hears a whimper from behind, but he doesn't have time to check. King is once again upon Bardock. However, this time no attack is thrown. Cold begins to charge up a death beam from a distance, pointing it towards Bardock's head, saying, "I suppose it's about time you joined the rest of your race, old-timer. Don't worry, your family will be joining you in hell soon after. After all, you killed mine, so I'll kill yours." With him about to fire off a blast when a shout of "no" erupts from the forest. Gine rockets out of the forest, pushing Bardock out of the way and getting hit herself. The attack goes straight through her chest, and the woman begins to struggle for breath. Cold punctured her lung, and Cold starts to laugh to himself, finding it funny how the woman tried to save Bardock, but in the end, she only brought him a few extra minutes. But at this point, the planet shakes like never before. It shakes when Cooler transforms, but right now, every building around the world begins to crack, windows begin to smash, and the ocean starts to form violent waves. Bardock shouts out, "You hurt my wife. I'll make you pay!" as his eyes white out as he rushes towards Cold, landing a blow on Cold's gut, but that's all the steam Bardock had. Having used too much energy, he passes out, but the assault doesn't end there. From the forest, the trees begin to shake, and the birds start to leave. As a golden glow erupts from them, soon a small rocket fires out from the forest. Gohan hits Cold directly in the face, unleashing a barrage of blows, as he shouts out towards Cold, screaming in his face, "Leave my grandparents alone!" Gohan lands hit after hit, smashing Cold backwards, but the boy doesn't stop. With his speed being too much for even Cooler to follow, he watches as the boy kicks Cold directly into the ground, creating a massive crater. As everyone finally gets a good look at Gohan, with Gine seeing that Gohan had finally become a Super Saiyan. Cold's body is bloody, broken and beaten, and is unable to move. Gohan calms down as he drops into his base state and rushes over to his grandparents. Cooler, still in shock, he goes to fire a blast, but what he didn't realise is the 4 Saiyans under him were all back on their feet, and extremely pissed off. Cold's pretty much dead, and now they set their rage on the likes of Cooler. Broly rushes in, his power skyrockets upwards. He lands a hit dead on. The attack does some damage but doesn't move Cooler, with Cooler's power being way too much. With someone seeing this, a shout of "Super Kaioken times 10" breaks through from behind as Goku's body rockets out at Cooler. Goku, faster than anyone can see, lands a hit on Cooler's face, sending the future Emperor flying across the battlefield. Goku follows up faster than Cooler can see once again, as he appears behind Cooler, landing a massive hammer on, nailing Cooler into the ground, before picking him up and upcutting him into the sky, where he is met by a very pissed off Raditz and Tarbell, who both throw a barrage of punches and kicks towards Cooler, sending him flying towards the ground once again, smashing him into the dirt. Broly appears above Cooler and stomps on him for a few seconds before picking up the demon, saying, "Never hurt our family," as he throws him in between himself and Tarbell, where all 4 Saiyans charge up their strongest attacks. They all collide on Cooler, and the monster is completely destroyed. With them all glad to have killed him, they rush over to Bardock, where they see he will need a senzu bean alongside Gine. With Goku about to rush off to get them, Chaozu appears from the forest, holding both Tien and Piccolo. He throws over the senzu beans that Tien had brought. With there being 4 available, Goku gives one each to both Bardock and Gine, as he splits the last 2 between himself, Raditz, Broly, and Torable. As Tora pulls himself up, announcing how he won't need one, it works out pretty well. Everyone collects themselves, with Goku saying how proud he is of his son. Before they can have a chance to celebrate, though, a sudden change in the battle between Vegeta and Paragus happens, and they realise Vegeta needs their help, and everyone starts to rush off towards them. Over with the battle with Vegeta, he's battling it all out with Paragus, the pair being locked in terms of power. With Vegeta and Paragus both have taken some pretty heavy hits, but Vegeta is at a disadvantage. He's had to keep his mind on the battle that's raging on at Mount Paozu, with him wanting to get over and help the others as much as he possibly can, and is unfortunately caught up in a battle with this stupid old Saiyan. The battle continues up until the point of Gohan's rage, which catches Paragus off guard. It lets Vegeta land some solid blows in on Paragus, and sends the old Saiyan hurling towards the ground. Vegeta sends a barrage of blasts towards the old man, which Vegeta believes to be the end of him. Having sensed his power disappear, Vegeta turns his attention towards Mount Paozu, but can sense that they have won the battle. He drops out of his Super Saiyan state and gets ready to head off. However, he soon feels a slice cut through his tail, before turning back to see what happened, with him then seeing a ball flying up into the sky. With him looking down to see Paragus having thrown a power ball into the sky, he begins to laugh. However, Vegeta is confused, as the Great Ape state is so much weaker than the Super Saiyan form. Paragus begins to grow in size as Vegeta once again powers up, getting ready to fight. But Paragus begins to laugh as his size grows, and soon his power begins to rise dramatically. As he starts powering up, his fur begins to glow golden, and Vegeta realizes what Paragus is doing. Vegeta curses at the top of his lungs as he fires off a Galagon, trying to put Paragus down. However, the Golden Great Ape tanks to hit as Paragus shouts out, "The royal bloodline ends here, by my hand. I never needed those stupid demons, but the power they helped me achieve was worth putting up with them. After I kill you and your stupid younger brother, I think I'll start by destroying that brat in that building you're at, for finishing off all those other fools at that stupid battlefield. They should be weak enough that I can kill them now." Paragus laughs like a crazy person, which soon turns into a monstrous war. With Golden Great Ape Paragus rushing at Vegeta, the Prince, not being able to avoid the attack, is slammed by the giant arms of the Great Ape. This sends Vegeta completely rocketing away, and the Great Ape chases after him. The Prince uses the momentum given to him from the attack and starts flying away. As much as he hates it, he needs to gain some distance. However, the Great Ape's speed is much greater than that of Vegeta's, with Paragus soon catching up with him, hitting Vegeta with one of his massive arms again. This breaks a few of Vegeta's bones, but the Prince grabs onto the fur on the arm of the ape and charges up a blast. Paragus goes to look at the Prince, however, as he does, Vegeta fires off a blast, blinding Paragus slightly. Vegeta flies under Paragus' legs and goes to grab his tail, with him just about to grab hold of it when it smacks him into the ground. Vegeta lies there for a few seconds as he starts to pull himself up. Paragus' sight comes back to him. He turns to see Vegeta, trying to stand up. The monster lets out a terrifying roar, with Vegeta realising that Paragus has completely lost himself in this power. He laughs, thinking at least Paragus won't get the joy of remembering this moment, but he also understands that Paragus is way too strong for anyone right now, and he hopes that they come up with a plan. Just before the giant foot of the Great Ape stomps Vegeta into the ground, a shout of Destructo Disc comes cutting through the air, as the giant tail of the monster is smacked onto the floor. Vegeta looks over to the side, seeing Krillin and Yamcha. Yamcha rushing in and grabbing Vegeta, causing Vegeta to shout at the Earthling. However, right now Vegeta doesn't have the energy to put up much of a fight. As Paragus begins to shrink, he is reverting back to his human state. He looks over to see the Earthlings who are flying away with Vegeta. Paragus curses as he goes to fire off a blast when he feels someone grab his shoulder, and then recognises the key. He turns to see Broly and the other Saiyans. Paragus panics as he starts trying to plead for his life, pretending how he was forced to do it. However, everyone knows that Paragus is the reason Cold and Cooler knew to come to Earth, and how they became so strong. Bardock pushes past Broly, saying that the boy shouldn't hold this burden, as he punches Paragus straight in the face, sending him flying away. Bardock says, "It's a shame you had to turn out like this, Paragus," with Bardock firing off a blast, killing Paragus, who in his last moment curses out the name Vegeta. With Paragus killed, Bardock turns to comfort Broly, the boy having sort of become adopted into the Sun family. However, Broly's fine. He's just upset his father couldn't see that if they changed, they could lead a normal life. With Krillin and Yamcha flying back towards the group, as Vegeta breaks free of Yamcha's grasp, asking when did they arrive, and Krillin and Yamcha go on to explain how they have been here for actually most of the fight. However, they knew that Vegeta would probably get angry with them if he was to step in. So they watched from the sides and they would jump in if something went sideways. And they thought Vegeta was going to win up until the point he turned into that golden grey ape thing, which is what grabs the group's attention. What do they mean by golden grey ape? As Vegeta explains how Paragus cut off his tail and then turned into a grey ape and combined it with the power of Super Saiyan. It's something Vegeta was planning on doing later on, but now he can't. Everyone hearing this thinks about it and thinks this could be an interesting step to take. But for now, they all need some rest and they decide to head home. Goku and Vegeta have a bit of home repair to do, but honestly, everyone's just happy they're alive right now. Well, not everyone's happy. Off in a lab, hidden away in the mountains, a doctor looks at the data in front of him, where he sees everything that happened today and realizes he was underestimating the Saiyans. As he looks over to some pods with the numbers 17 and 18 written on them, he begins thinking to himself how they will no longer be enough. The doctor walks to the other side of the room, where a robe covers 3 large pods. When he removes the robe, the numbers 15, 14, and 13 are all shown on the pods, as the doctor starts working on the creatures inside, knowing that this might be enough firepower. We see our heroes training once again, having recovered from their most recent battle, and the Saiyans have one thing on their mind: mastering the Super Saiyan form and increasing it further. But one Saiyan is thinking something different. Bardock is thinking on a chance he had heard and felt. Paragus made a gamble during that battle, and Bardock thinks he can make it pay off. You see, with the idea of using the Ozaru and the Super Saiyan form, it's something that really interests Bardock. But for now, he wants to train up Super Saiyan. So, for a while, he leaves it as a back burner. The group continue their training, and a few years begin to pass. However, one day Goku is struck by a disease. Of course, everyone's worried, and Goku's condition grows worse and worse and worse, soon to the point where they all know he's going to die. But thanks to Bardock's quick thinking, and being on Namek for years, he understands that Shenron can't bring him back from the dead after dying of natural causes, but curing a disease should be nothing. Everyone hearing this would begin to rush off and collect the Dragon Balls, and soon make a wish to cure Goku's heart virus. Of course, this works, leading to Goku being fine and healthy. This leads to there being no future timeline. This means no time travel. And that also means this is our main timeline. Time begins to pass once again. But one day, when she feels like no other, they get a call off Vegeta, who starts screaming how 3 different cities are being attacked by some sort of superpowered people, and he can't sense them at all. Everyone takes a moment to try and sense them as well, and they can't feel anything. Immediately, the group go into a bit of a panic. They decide that they need to split off and take out these threats, or at least figure out what they are. After a bit of discussing, Vegeta and Turbo, alongside the humans, decide they'll head over to East City. A team of Piccolo, Tora, and Broly will head over to North City, and Bardock, Goku, Gohan, and Raditz head towards South City. Everyone's unsure of what they'll find, but they need to make this fast. Over in East City, the group arrive and can't sense anything, but explosions continue to happen throughout the city. The group begin to panic as they rush towards the explosions, where they find 2 people who look to be very young. They're just firing off key blasts. and killing civilians. The pair soon see the group. They look them up and down, and the boy says, "None of these are Goku, sis, but we should at least have some fun with them, right?" The female nods her head, and of course the people in front of the group is Android 18 and 17. But our group has this never revealed to them. The team here aren't too familiar with the Red Ribbon Army. The only one who really remembers something here is Krillin, and it's very vague. For now, our heroes don't know these are related to the Red Ribbon Army, or even Dr. Gero. Now, when a fight eventually breaks out, Vegeta and Tarbell, being already in their grade 4 state, try their best to keep up with the androids, but there is too much of a power difference. The humans seeing this also jump in, but there's nothing they can do. Can't even level the playing field. These androids are just too strong. Slowly, people are getting hit harder and worse over time. The only reason they're able to keep up at this point is thanks to their teamwork. Slowly over time, they start losing ground. But the princes keep fighting. They try to help the humans stay in this for as long as possible. They need all hands on deck for this. The humans do bring up maybe retreating, but Vegeta's pride won't allow it. As they already knew this, they continue to fight on, hoping that someone else will show up to give them a hand. The group that was heading towards South City soon arrive, but what they find is a completely empty city. They can sense no life within the streets or in the buildings. They begin to search around, look for any sign of life, but nothing is found. Even the buildings are empty. Cars, everything. But Piccolo can hear some footsteps, off in the distance. They sound metallic of sorts, and soon the heroes rush towards it and find Android 14 and 15. The pair are happy to see the Namekian and some of the Saiyans. They quickly scan them up and down, seeing none of them as Son Goku. They decide to finish this fight fast and then find the other one. They rush towards the fighters, and the group have to quickly power up. They begin to clash, and they are able to hold their own slightly thanks to Broly being part of this team. This means that Broly's amazing power is able to contend just below that of Android 15's. He can just about fight him one-on-one, however, he does soon start to lose ground. It doesn't help that Tora and Piccolo aren't able to hold off 14 too well, leading to Broly getting double teamed very often. Of course, he's able to fight relatively level, but it's just every now and again 14 will jump in and land some hits. Piccolo and Tora can keep 14's attention quite well, but he is so much stronger than them, it is causing a lot of problems. In North City, it's different. Only one building was destroyed, and as our heroes arrive, they see a man flying in the air, scanning the surroundings. He soon locks eyes with Goku when he smiles.
Well, would you look at that? I guess I'm a lucky man today. Not only did I get the good doctor to let me out of the pod, but I also got a chance at the big fish of this planet. Ain't that right, Son Goku?
Everyone's confused, as he knows who Goku is, and something about a good doctor, they're really confused. As the man continues saying,
Oh yeah, I should formally introduce myself. I am Android 13, made by the great Dr. Gero, a scientist of the Red Ribbon Army. I'm sure you remember them, don't you, Goku?
Goku flinches up a bit at hearing this, but isn't shaken, as he asks what he wants, as the android responds.
Well, I'm a simple man, Goku. I'm here to kill you and your family, which, from where I stand, shouldn't be too hard of a job. So, I'll give you some options. We can do this where I kill you first, and then your family will join you in Overworld. Or, my favorite way, I could kill your family, then you.
Hearing this, the group get ready to fight, as 13 scans the Saiyans with a smirk on his face. He sees that in this group, Raditz is the weakest link, as he rushes towards the long-haired Saiyan. He tries to block the attack but is easily overpowered. As the Saiyans start to fight off the android, they soon realise that they can't even land a blow, with Bardock having the feeling that the android is even holding back. As he starts pushing himself more and the others fighting harder, Goku decides to use his Super Kaioken, which is something he has actually managed to get a good mastery of in this timeline. Doesn't do much, but it means that Goku is able to land a few more blows now. When they connect, they do somewhat hurt the android. However, Android 13's power is too much, and he's able to hold them off quite easily, dodging most major hits and dealing major damage whenever needed. All around the planet, the power of our heroes is slowly dropping as they start losing their fights. Kami on the lookout, sensing this from a distance, tries to figure out what to do. He contacts Piccolo, the only person he has a really solid connection with, and starts saying how they need to get away from this fight. The Namekian responds saying how he already knows that, but he can't. Starts figuring out a plan, but a random card is played by Tora. A shout from Tora of Kaioken surprises both Broly and Piccolo. This is a technique no one knew Tora could use, and the only person who did know was Goku. Tora's power increases massively as he activates his Super Kaioken, as he fires off a massive blast which hits both androids. This sends them flying miles away. From where the three fighters are, they have a few seconds to get away from this fight. Piccolo shouts out that they need to leave. The others go to argue, but Piccolo gives them a serious look and they agree to leave. As they make a retreat, the androids soon return to find the fighters have disappeared. After getting out of the city and dropping their power, just in case the androids could detect it, Piccolo begins to explain how they need to split up and get the other fighters out of harm's way. They agree as Piccolo decides he's going to head towards Bardock's power to try and get them away, and the others agree to go to East City. Now, Piccolo manages to arrive at North City first, where he sees his friends struggling for their lives, but he stays off the radar. He waits for his opportunity to get an attack in, and once he sees it, he fires off a paralysis beam. This hits the android and stuns him for just a few seconds. He shouts for everyone to run, which they do so, but Goku decides to seal the deal. He powers up to a Kaioken times 20 and kicks the android away, as they quickly dash off towards Kami's lookout. Now, over with the princes. They are the only fighters left standing. The humans aren't able to stand anymore, and pretty much at death's door, whereas the princes are on their last legs. With them trying to figure out what to do, which is when Brody rockets in, kicking 18 directly in the face. Tora flies in and shouts out Solar Flare. He blinds both androids as they shout for everyone to run. They quickly see that the humans can't run right now. Making a quick decision, they grab the humans and shout for the princes to follow after them. Them heading towards the lookout, the group manages to recollect themselves. Everyone has taken a heavy beating, with some sensor beams being split amongst the group. They are all pretty much back in fighting shape. As they try to figure out a plan, what their next step is going to be. They all start talking as they start trying to think of something. Kami speaks up, saying how he has an idea and goes on to explain what the Room of Spirit and Time is, with him explaining that you could get a year in one day. Goku never had gone into the time chamber in the timeline, of course, so this is the first he's ever heard about it. But once hearing how it works, everyone wants to use it. They begin to split into pairs, and Vegeta and Tarbell are the ones to win the game of rock, paper, scissors. It was a massive tournament, and they managed to win. And while they are in the time chamber, the others begin to start some light training on the lookout. After a short while on training on the lookout, Kami senses an attack on the planet. He can feel life forms dropping up near Jingle Village. No one's going to sit at the lookout and let people die. So the group get ready, unsure of what they'll face, but start rushing off in that direction. With them arriving in a few minutes after, they soon arrive to see Android 14 and 15 attacking Jingle Village and the surrounding area. Goku has a hunch that it could be that there used to be a Red Ribbon base here, and there might be data thereafter. It also could have something to do with Aita, who does live in Jingle Village. But for now, Goku can't think too much of it, as the androids see them and get ready to fight. But thanks to some Zenkais the Saiyans have got, and all of them being here, they feel pretty confident. When the fight does break out, the teams break into, well, two large groups, where they're easily able to hold their own against the androids. They're in fact able to overpower them. This is just thanks to the Z Fighters massively outnumbering the two androids, and also thanks to some great Zenkais. Slowly, the Z Fighters start to win. Broly, Goku, and Tora are the massive driving factors to this. This is mostly thanks to Goku and Tora's Super Kaioken. Tora hasn't got a mastery over it like Goku, but he's still able to use it somewhat efficiently. And Broly is just naturally being so strong. But this causes Android 14 and 15's internal system to start warning them and tries to make them escape. However, the Saiyans won't allow them to, with Android 15 getting destroyed by a combination attack, which was set up by Tien and Piccolo, and was executed by Raditz and Gohan. The group share a bit of a cheer as Android 14 begins to try and escape. However, a Super Kaioken Goku kicks him in the back, straight into Broly, who cleaves through the android's body, and then Bardock fires off a blast, completely destroying the android. The group all dropped to the floor. This wasn't an easy battle, and even though they were overpowering the androids, every time they got hit it hurt. This led to them getting heavily injured, but they managed to win. The group do know that these were actually the weakest androids, and that won't work twice. They begin to get some rest in the freezing cold snow. However, two familiar faces run out towards the group. Goku's a bit shocked to see an old friend coming towards him. He soon recognizes Suno and Aita. They're both happy to see Goku as they start trying to help him and his friends, giving some medical attention here and there. They sort of catch up. Goku isn't in the right headspace right now. They need to finish what's going on the planet first. Goku weakly thanks them as they start flying towards the lookout. He tells them to come and visit him at Mount Pausa at some point and they can catch up properly. Goku also warns Aita to stay in hiding. He's not sure why they were up here, but there has to be a reason, and it might just be him. Aita understands as he heads off. With the group soon arriving at the lookout, their wounds are tended to by Popo and Kami, a lot better than what Aita and Suno did, however their help was appreciated. After getting some medical care, the group start thinking of what their next move should be. After all, they're pretty heavily drained now, and most of them bandaged up to a point where they need some time to rest. Another battle like they just had, and someone's going to die. Even though they won, it's a victory that they know was quite lucky. The group begin to think of possible ways to deal with the androids. But before they get too far into it, Bardock starts thinking might have a way to deal with it, but he needs a bit more rest, so bites his tongue for now. A short while of time passes, and the group are starting to plan to deal with the androids. As, like I said, they managed to win there, but aren't sure if they could do it again. Meanwhile, up in Jingle Village, the remaining parts of 14 and 15 start getting pulled towards Android 13, who had come looking for his android allies, but is happy at the sight he has found. He begins to morph and change as he starts to laugh, saying how now the Saiyans really don't stand a chance. But he decides to report back to someone first, in the opposite direction of Kami's lookout. Over on the lookout, Kami also has an idea, brings up the idea of him and Piccolo merging, thinking of the massive power increase Piccolo could have. Piccolo is shocked to hear the idea, but Bardock is the one who says it shouldn't happen. This would mean they lose the Dragon Balls, and for now that's something they can't risk. Everyone agrees, so they move on to the next idea. And that idea happens to be Bardock's. He goes on explaining how he wants to try doing what Paragus clearly thought of. He wants to use the Super Saiyan form with the Great Ape state. He isn't sure how it will work, but he knows he needs to do it alone, since he isn't sure why it affected Paragus so much. After all, Paragus could control the Great Ape state, and he can also do this. It's something he spent a bit of time practicing on Namek, using his own Power Ball. Now, the group hearing this think this is a good chance to do it, but don't really want to send Bardock alone. So they think to send Broly with Bardock. Broly lost his tail as a kid, so this means that he won't be affected by a Power Ball. But Tora offers to go with Bardock as well. He thinks that if he throws the Power Ball for Bardock, it will mean that Bardock doesn't have to waste a lot of energy. Thinking this to be a good idea, Bardock does accept his friend's offer. As they get ready to leave, a shout from someone grabs their attention. Slowly, a load of androids begin to appear. 13 looks different and starts saying how he won't be allowing them to do that. 18 and 17 also appear alongside 3 other androids. 2 androids look completely the same, looking almost clown-like, and another being an old man who introduces himself as Dr. Gero, saying how he can't wait to watch Son Goku die. With the group shocked to see this, everyone is in rough shape still. They aren't sure what to do. After all, if a fight breaks out, they're in a dangerous spot. Almost as they finish this thought, Dr. Gero clicks his hands, and the androids which look the same and Android 13 rush towards Son Goku. 17 and 18 hesitate for a moment, But after a quick show of a device in his hand from Dr. Gero, the two rush in, while the Doctor watches from a distance. All the androids begin to try and dogpile Son Goku, who only just manages to power up to Super Saiyan, but it knows his body can't handle the Super Kaioken. With all the androids on him, the other Saiyans begin to power up themselves, managing to get to their Super Saiyan states, and soon stop splitting off the androids between them. But Android 13 manages to stay on Goku. Luckily, Broly sticks around to give Goku some support. However, 13 is strong enough to deal with both of them, even at full power. Battle begins to go much more intense, and soon the lookout is shaking with how much power is being thrown around. Kami and Popo have hid themselves away near the time chamber, already planning on letting Vegeta and Tarbell out. But Goku gives them a signal not to. Goku knows that if this battle continues on up here, not only will it lead to possibly Kami's death, but it also could lead to Vegeta and Tarbell being trapped in the time chamber. So Goku manages to break away from 13 for just a few seconds and rushes over the edge, shouting out for all of the androids to come and get some. As he rushes down to the ground, the androids in a rush chase after him. None of the Saiyans are able to stop them, they're just so weak at the moment. But they don't sit by and watch, they rush off to help Goku. However, Bardock stops both Tora and Piccolo and begins saying, "Tora, get the damn artificial moon going already. And Piccolo, make contact with Namek. Tell them to have their Dragon Balls ready. And then I want you to fuse with Kami. This is our only chance of winning." Both nod their heads as Tora throws the Power Ball up, as Piccolo begins to talk to Kami, trying to make contact with Namek. Tora throws the artificial moon up, and Bardock looks upwards, while shouting for everyone to keep their eyes down. With everyone hearing this, they begin to look down and try not look upwards to the best of their ability. Bardock begins to change into a Great Ape, but while this is happening, Tora rushes back into the battle, starting to flare up and into his Super Kaioken. However, the transformation is very painful for him to use at the moment, but he knows it might be the best chance of them winning until Bardock gets into the battle. The transformation starts occurring to the Great Ape for Bardock, and eventually he becomes one. He begins to concentrate on the power of his family, and begins to repeat in his mind, "Defend my family, defend my family, defend my family." Slowly, to activating his Super Saiyan form, he begins to turn into a golden Great Ape, and he can feel the rage that must have overtaken Paragus when he used the state, understanding why he couldn't control it. He begins to try and center himself, almost taking a meditation stance while transforming. He begins to repeat those words, "Defend my family," over and over, slowly trying to grip onto something. But for now, he's caught up in this moment of thought. Meanwhile, down on the ground, the group are going through a very painful fight. None of them are able to keep up with the androids, neither the humans nor the Saiyans. And slowly, the androids are tearing through the group. 13 is the main factor in this, being so he's so strong. But the double 19s, Dr. Gero, 18 and 17, are causing a lot of problems. But something to mention about the twins is, every time they go off track a little bit and start doing something the Doctor doesn't like, a remote is shown off. They basically keep almost trying to play with their food, but the Doctor wants this fight over with fast. Krillin is one of the few fighters to notice this, and is trying to figure out what is going on. But for now, he can't concentrate. Slowly, the group begins to fall. The humans are the first to go down, and then some of the Saiyans begin to go down. Broly, Gohan, Tora, and Goku are the only ones left standing, and the only reason Goku's left standing is thanks to a quick bit of energy from his brother Raditz. The only reason that both Broly and Gohan is Broly is slowly slipping into his rage, allowing himself to almost be consumed by it, while Gohan is starting to achieve a power through his rage that he didn't know he had. And slowly, the group are expecting something to happen with one of these two, but nothing does, as a huge power appears on the lookout and soon lands near the group. Both Goku and Raditz look amazed as they watch at whatever has happened to their father, as they see Bardock in a new form and a new sense of power. Bardock looks over to the group, asking if everyone's okay. Most of them give a sly nod, and Bardock soon turns his attention towards the androids. In a flash, he quickly destroys both 19 clones. With him then locking eyes with 17 and 18, a shout from Krillin to leave them be for a moment catches Bardock off guard, who looks over to Krillin confused, but Krillin explains how something's fishy. He can't quite figure it out, but he wants Bardock to trust him. Bardock isn't too sure, but Goku says that Krillin's actually got a pretty keen eye, and if he thinks something's off, he does as well. Bardock reluctantly agrees as he turns his attention towards 13, the biggest fish, with 13 being confident, thinking that he would easily be able to defeat Bardock, but Bardock shows off his true power, showing that he was holding back in the battle against 19, and quickly demolishes Android 13 with just one punch. He then turns his attention towards Dr. Gero, and with the Doctor panicking, he grabs hold of the remote and shouts over to 17 and 18 to get over here and kill this Saiyan. Bardock finally understands what Krillin was seeing, and within a flash cuts off Dr. Gero's arm, turning towards the androids and throwing the remote, saying if this is the power he had over you, I advise you take it, destroy it, and stay out of my sight. The androids are shocked, but after years on Namek and some influence from Goku, Bardock has grown a small soft spot and is sort of willing to let these androids go if they were being held prisoner. The androids don't even thank Bardock. A quick smash of the remote and a key blast killing Dr. Gero, and they leave. Everyone's a bit confused at what happened, but soon they realise that they kind of won. They know now if the androids show back up, Bardock has the power to easily defeat them, so they are pretty much a non-threat. So they all relax. The group begin to talk and try and figure out what Bardock's new form is. Well, at least the Saiyans do. Goku and Raditz are the ones who have taken the biggest interest in this. And while this is all happening, Kami, who hadn't fused with Piccolo, was mere seconds off, thanks to Bardock getting this super strong form, has come down to heal the group as he starts slowly helping them back up to the lookout. Now, Bardock shares as much as he can about this new form, saying how it was pretty much what happened when he controlled his Golden Great Ape, with this being a really interesting concept to Goku and Raditz, as they both share a desire to learn it. After getting some medical care from Kami and Popo, the group feel comfortable enough to head home, and Kami asks what they're going to do about the androids. Bardock says how he plans on doing nothing as long as they don't show up. If they cause any problems, he'll deal with them as fast as possible. Plus, Vegeta and Tarbell should be out of the time chamber any moment now, pretty much making the androids a non-threat if Vegeta and Tarbell come out as strong as Bardock thinks they will. Kami is a bit reluctant to let them just live on Earth, after all they did destroy a whole city, but he decides that for now he'll trust the Saiyan's judgment. And to be honest, it's more Krillin's judgment, who was one of his students for a short while. Krillin does thank Bardock for taking his word for it, and Bardock explains how he took Goku's word for it, but from now on in the future, he might trust the bold fighter. Krillin's happy to hear this as the Saiyan squad start heading home. The Earthlings take a little bit more time to get some rest. Eventually, everyone arrives home and they have a bit of time to rest. After a while though, Vegeta and Tarbell would come out of the time chamber, incredibly strong. The pair are confused as they get out to the lookout though, as they see no one there. But after a quick explanation from Kami of what went down, the Saiyans understand what happened. They're annoyed that they can't show off this new form they have discovered, and they decide that they'll head over to Mount Paozu. Both, upon arriving, show off to Super Saiyan 2 state, which is amazing to everyone for a few seconds, before they realise that Bardock's new form is actually better. And after showing it off, Vegeta reluctantly agrees that Bardock's new form is incredibly strong. But the problem is, this form is unachievable for him, so he heads home with Tarbell, going along with him. But now, all our Saiyans have goals. For Vegeta, he wants to find a power that can rival Super Saiyan 4. For Tarbell, he wants to get a mastery over Super Saiyan 2, finding it to be an interesting state with not much downfall. Goku and Raditz want to learn and master the Super Saiyan 4 state. Bardock also wants to master the Super Saiyan 4 state himself. Gohan doesn't want to learn the Super Saiyan 4 form, mostly because he doesn't want to risk going crazy during Great Ape mode, but is interested in Super Saiyan 2, and begins to work towards that. Tora, after having his butt saved by the Super Kaioken during today, he decides he wants to master the Kaioken, and also the Super Saiyan Kaioken. And finally, Broly is the only Saiyan who is unsure what to do. He's too scared to try and learn the Super Saiyan 2 form, after all his rage could be a problem, but he also can't achieve the Super Saiyan 4 state, after all he has no tail. So for now he plans on trying to master his rage more than anything, and hopefully this will lead to him being able to find something of his own.
Our heroes are spending the time of peace training, leading peaceful lives. Both of Bardock's sons have trained towards Super Saiyan 4, wanting to see what the form's power is and what it can give them. And after a while of trying, the pair eventually achieve the form, allowing the Saiyans to reach new heights. The brothers are amazed at the power in it, and while they are achieving this, the other Saiyans spend their time breaking their limits as well. However, no one can quite match the power of a Super Saiyan 4, and this is something that sits poorly with the Prince of All Saiyans. He hates how much he's fallen behind, so he trains harder than ever to achieve a power to maybe rival Super Saiyan 4. And after a while of training, he eventually achieves something which he dubs Super Saiyan 3, a form with great power. And after Vegeta had learnt how to contain the issues of ki loss to a better degree and stamina drain, he eventually challenges Son Goku, but loses still to the Super Saiyan 4 form. It drives Vegeta insane. After all this time training, he just can't pull himself ahead of them, and slowly he's fallen behind the rest of the group. The low class, Bardock, Kakarot and Raditz all push themselves further and further ahead of him, and slowly he has a hatred and anger which bubbles underneath the surface for the Sun family. As for the other Saiyans, he feels rage towards them as well, even his own brother to some degree. His brother, Tarbell, has seen the slow turn into the darkness once again, and he's been trying to help his brother, training alongside him, hoping that this power of training will propel them forward, as he tries using everything he can. Having mastered the Super Saiyan 2 form during these 7 years, he trains against Vegeta using that. However, his power is no match for Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta, but Vegeta keeps training with his brother, being his best option. Over time, eventually, Trunks joins in training, with Tarbell actually spending some time to train up the young boy. But during this time of peace, Tarbell finds himself a partner one day. 2 years into the time skip, both Tarbell and Vegeta find themselves up at Mount Paozu, when a woman with red hair came up to meet Goku with an android. This is Suno. Both her and Tarbell hit it off right from the get-go, and they start dating not long after meeting, and shortly after they have a child named Hisame. As the time of peace passes, the Saiyans grow stronger, leading a more peaceful life. However, Gohan would still go and attend Orange Star High, but thanks to the timeline being different, and thanks to Bardock being a big factor in Gohan's early life, he does keep up with his training, and he's pretty motivated at the moment. He isn't making too much ground, and has no interest in working towards Super Saiyan 4, but he's learnt the Super Saiyan 2 form and he's really happy with it. Now, the changes with the android cycle would heavily affect the life of Videl and Hercule. Thanks to the androids being slightly different, the champion is not as famous, meaning he is another champion and nothing else, not Earth's saviour. As for Videl, this leads to her not being someone who jumps in to fight crime. However, she's still very much an active fighter and trains at her father's dojo, which is enough for her to show up on Gohan's radar, and he's impressed to meet someone like Videl, who can hold her own in a fight. Gohan would still become the Great Saiyaman, and this is something still that would catch Videl's eyes. Slowly she would try to figure out who the Great Saiyaman is. However, something throws the girl off. A couple weeks into the Great Saiyaman's first appearance, another Great Saiyaman shows up. Or should I say Great Saiyan woman, who showed up only a few days into Gohan's Great Saiyaman antics. And this is Gine. Once she learnt of Gohan being a superhero, she wanted to join in. It's a way to pay back the planet after it had saved her family, and it's also a good way for her to spend some time with her grandson, Gohan. She spent some time in these last 7 years training. After the events with King Cold and the androids, she hates how far behind she is. She doesn't care for it too much, only training slightly here and there, and not even bothering to learn either of the Super Saiyan forms, but she's definitely made some dramatic leaps and bounds in power. Gohan also loves this, getting to spend time with his grandmother, who's a big part of his life. But just thanks to the fact there's a Great Saiyan woman, it doesn't stop Videl's search completely. She eventually does figure it out and asks to be trained up, as Gine offers to do so. Like in canon, Videl becomes a pupil of Gohan, but more importantly his grandmother. When arriving at Mount Paozu, Videl meets all the other Saiyans and Piccolo who live up on the mountain, and she finds it slightly overwhelming learning one of her classmates is half alien, learning how there's multiple lives out in the universe, and also multiple world martial art champions that just casually know this group. With her getting taught by the Saiyans, eventually she brings up the idea of the tournament. Hearing about it, Goku is interested, as he starts to ask if the other Saiyans would like to join him. Most Saiyans aren't too interested. This is just going to be a Saiyan battle at the end of the day. They could do that at home, So the likes of Bardock, Gine, Tora, Tarbell and Broly decide to give it a skip, leading to only Goku, Vegeta, Raditz and Gohan, Saiyan-wise, deciding to enter. The rest of the cast enters like normal. Now, with the group getting ready, eventually the day of the tournament comes around. Like normal, there is a kids division here, with Trunks and Goten entering. Hisame is still a little too young to be a fully fledged fighter, and is around the same age as Marin, who is born in this timeline, and really good friends with Hisame. As for Goten, I haven't really spoken about him yet fully, but he's a much more happy fighter thanks to his grandfather's influence. Now, the winner of the tournament thanks to this would be Goten. He has so many teachers and so many different areas to pull inspiration for techniques, fighting styles from. He's got people like Piccolo, Gohan, his father, his granddad, and even great uncle Tora. It just means that he's a very well-rounded fighter, with him knowing some of their very unique techniques, and also being a much stronger fighter, whereas Trunks can only really pull inspiration from his father and Tarbell. Now, while the kids division's going on, something grabs Bardock's attention. Even Tora and Gine pick on this. Around the island that this tournament's being held, they feel some familiar energies, but they don't know why they feel so familiar. At first they try to annoy it, but by the time Trunks and Goten's match is underway, these powers feel like they're honing in and growing stronger. It's enough to make the trio nervous as they start to investigate the island. They spend, for the most part, all of Goten and Trunks' match searching around, hoping to find whatever this is. But it leads them to nothing, so they eventually chalk it down to it just being nothing. Maybe all these years of battle have left them on edge, and they're just waiting for something bad to happen. So for now they choose to ignore it, and just hope that they're right, and it is just they're on edge. So they sit back down and catch the end of Goten and Trunks' battle. Bardock cheers on his grandson harder than anyone in the crowd, and when Goten wins he praises him highly. And as they all sit down to watch, the first round of the true tournament is about to begin, as we see Krillin put up against Raditz. The human is nervous, but understands his wife will kill him if he doesn't at least try to fight against Raditz. Raditz respectfully wishes Krillin good luck, having been influenced by Goku and his father to become a bit more of a respectful fighter. As the pair take a fighting stance, 3 hooded figures appear above them. A shout from Goku catches their attention as they look up and see these 3 hooded figures. They hold their hands out and then shoot off massive balls of energy which combine into a massive ki blast. The Z fighters don't have a lot of time to react. Bardock looks towards the Saiyans in the stands with him, telling them to defend the weak. As they nod, Tora, Broly, Tarbell grab hold of their human friends. People like Bulma, Chi-Chi, Suno, Launch are all grabbed and have a shield erupt around them. As Bardock powers up to Super Saiyan, he tries to create a huge shield which will defend the crowd in the stands he's in. However, he isn't fast enough and only manages to cover half of the crowd. The ki blast hits the ground and destroys the entire island. The 3 hooded people stay airborne. As the dust begins to settle, all that's left of the island is the arena, which was defended by Krillin and Raditz, who had managed to save the arena just a small bit, alongside the tournament waiting area, which 18 had saved using a barrier, but nothing else. The other people in the crowd are missing, and the people saved by the Saiyans are the only ones left alive. Everyone stands quiet for a few seconds, before Goku shouts out to get all the civilians out of here, as the Z-fighters start grabbing a few surviving civilians. Even Videl helps carrying people who can't fly, and soon, Bardock is the only one left in the area. All the other Z-fighters had grabbed people and evacuated. Bardock had said he doesn't want these hooded guys to chase after his friends. As he stands there, staring them down, he eventually rushes towards them and clashes with the opponent in front of him. However, the figure blocks the attack, and this causes a massive surge of wind to knock the hood off the person, revealing someone Bardock had fought had died years ago. As Bardock's left muttering the name Shigesh, he's kicked in the back into what's left of the stands. Tora arrives back in the arena alongside Gine as they get a look at the person under the hood, as the other two reveal themselves as Fasha and Bargos. These Saiyans are old friends of the trio, and they assumed they had died years ago. They're so happy to see them but are so confused at what's going on. Gine shouts out for her friend Fasha. These two got along well, asking how she's alive, but the woman doesn't respond as she stares down Bardock. We were saved by the great Babidi, and we will help him complete his goal. In return, we get to avenge the rest of our race.
which were killed by you, Bardock. The Saiyan looks shocked, and he doesn't know what she means. He didn't kill any Saiyan other than Paragus. As Shigesh explains, you revived only a select few of our race, leaving the rest of us to rot in hell. So we sat, training, waiting for our chance of revenge. When Frieza joined us, we were somewhat impressed. But now, our chance for revenge has finally presented itself, so here we are. Bardock looks stunned, as Tora shouts out for his friend, explaining that Bardock didn't kill anyone. He would have saved everyone if he could have, but it would have put too much attention on them, and he only originally intended to save Kakarot. It wasn't until himself and Gine tricked Bardock and knocked him out that he survived. So if they're going to be mad at anyone, be mad at him and Gine. Gine seconds this motion as Bardock feels defeated. These were his friends. These were his friends at some point, but he doesn't understand why they're like this. He was never even intending on saving himself. It was by the luck that Tora had knocked him out that he's even alive to this day. He's so grateful he is, but he couldn't ever revive them. There were rules he had to follow, and he had to abide them to even get the people he's got back now here. And saying this makes a vein pop in Borgos' head. He explains, you're a Saiyan, and we're stronger than anything on that planet, Namek. You could have brought us back by force, and then we all could have defeated and destroyed Frieza, and took our place as the rightful rulers of this universe. Bardock screams out that that's not what they do anymore. They don't destroy. They got their revenge, and now they live peaceful lives. But Fascia laughs at that prospect, telling them that they've obviously gotten too weak. Even as a Super Saiyan, this is pathetic. And him and his lineage is a waste of Saiyan blood. Some true Saiyans should have survived. Hearing this, Tora screams out, this is someone he would consider family, shouting for them to shut up. Bardock is the reason that the Saiyan race has even got the numbers it does right now. He is single-handedly the saviour of their race. As he powers up to his newly mastered Super Saiyan Kaioken, his power skyrockets as he rushes towards them. But the moment he gets close, Borgos smiles. He gets hit in the face by Tora as Fascia and Shigesh grab hold of Tora, holding him in place. Bardock is about to rush off towards them, but he feels his body can't move. It's like he's being held in place for some reason. He tries powering up to break free of it, and he can feel his body slowly moving. But by the time he's done this, Tora has been stabbed by a weird looking device, and slowly he drops out of Super Saiyan and falls into the ocean that is once an island. Bardock finally breaks free and rushes towards his friend, grabbing him, saving him from drowning, and then flies him back to a solid bit of land. He's confused at what happens as he looks around. He follows where the three friends of his just flew off to, before handing Tora's body to Gine, telling her to go give him a senzu bean and make it as fast as she possibly can. She is a bit taken aback of everything which has just happened, but nods her head as she rockets off towards Corin's. As Bardock then turns around, he's met by two people he's never seen before. A tall man who's pink and a small man who's a shade of blue. Bardock, already angry and on edge at the moment, throws a punch towards them, which is caught by Goku, who explains that they know what's going on here, and he has to listen. As Shin and Kibito introduce themselves and explain everything which is happening with Majin Buu, and they need to hurry up to intercept those three fighters, and they need to do it fast. The energy that Tora just gave off is way too much. Even Shin and Kibito weren't accounting for how much power these Saiyans had. And slowly, the other Saiyans show up and follow along with Shin and Kibito, chasing after the trio who had just flown off towards Babidi's lair. As Shin explains in a bit more detail of what's going on, explaining how Babidi is a wizard who is trying to revive an evil known as Majin Buu, the strongest thing the universe has ever seen, but he needs a lot of energy to do so. Bardock doesn't care about any of this, asking how those three are alive. Shin hypothesizes that maybe Babidi can bring back the dead and inflict them with the Majin Curse. Hearing about the Majin Curse and learning how it can grant you some great power enhances your darkest emotions. Bardock, hearing this, understands that that must be why his friends were acting so aggressive and hatred was spewing out of them. Hearing that it also makes you a servant of Babidi, Bardock wonders if they are actually under the spell. These Saiyans were very proud, and he maybe believes there's a chance they aren't fully under it. He hopes that his friends are still in there, as the group continues to fly off, eventually catching back up with the trio. Keeping a good distance as to not start a fight, they eventually arrive at Babidi's ship. The group watch from a distance as the trio of Saiyans they had just fought hand over the device towards a giant man and a small little wizard. As they watch for a few seconds, suddenly, the giant red man, known as Deborah, appears in front of them. He quickly fires off a blast and kills Kibito, before turning and spitting on both Broly and Piccolo, turning them to stone. Deborah is about to escape back towards the ship. However, he doesn't get very far, as Bardock grabs Deborah by the head and powers up into Super Saiyan, kneeing him in the gut. This sends Deborah flying backwards, straight into Babidi's ship. Shin shouts out for the group not to fight right now, they need to reserve their energy, saying how if they've already collected a large amount of ki from Tora, they will be very close to reviving Boo. But Bardock, hearing this, explains how they need to defeat them before they can give any of Tora's energy to Boo. Bardock then rushes towards Deborah, but is stopped by Fascia once again. She headbutts her former teammate, knocking him back a little bit, as Goku rushes in and is stopped by Shigesh. The two begin to fight it out, as Raditz then flies down and fights off Borgos. As the fight truly begins to break out, Gohan rushes towards Deborah, who's trying to escape back into the ship. The boy has to power up to Super Saiyan to even stand a chance against this guy. He's incredibly strong. While this is all happening, Babidi uses this chance to escape into his ship, running as fast as his little legs will carry him, and once arriving in his ship, he teleports to the bottom, starting to give off energy towards Boo. Bardock, having seen him escape, shouts out for Shin, Vegeta and Tarbell to rush down there and deal with that small guy fast. Shin agrees as Tarbell and Vegeta rush in. They have to deal with the likes of Yakon and Pui Pui. However, they are quickly dealt with by a Super Saiyan blast from Vegeta, hardly having to try. Shin scolds Vegeta for being reckless in using blasts like that, as he tells them they need to get to Babidi fast, which they try to do. Babidi, at the bottom of the ship with Boo's egg, has filled all of Tora's energy into it. It's sitting at 90%. With the battle going on upstairs, he should have enough energy, but the issue is, Vegeta and Tarbell are making good time on him. The small man begins to panic, trying to figure out what he can do, searching through everyone's heart, hoping to find something to use, eventually coming across Vegeta, and he realises he might have a shot. Up on the surface, Bardock and his sons are struggling against the revived Saiyans. They aren't quite strong, and probably wouldn't match up to their Super Saiyan 4 states, but it still takes them a few seconds to activate that form, and they can't find an opening to do so. Over with Gohan against Deborah, the boy is winning. Deborah is no match for Gohan in his Super Saiyan 2 state, as Gohan is trying to put him down, but Deborah is very durable and refuses to go down for long. Gohan tries to think on his feet, using anything he can to take him down. Avoiding his spit has been the biggest problem for Gohan so far, so for now it's leaving to Gohan having to keep his distance and try and figure out how to deal with Deborah. As these battles have only been raging on for a few seconds, Vegeta feels Babidi inside his mind, scratching and clawing away at the goodness in his heart. At first Vegeta tries to stop a fight, but slowly Babidi begins to tear and scratch away at this, eventually coming across the hatred Vegeta has for the likes of Bardock and the Sun family. Babidi uses this to his advantage, telling Vegeta he can give him the power to defeat them, just trust him, slowly convincing Vegeta to take this power, and eventually bestow upon him the Margin Mark. Tarbell calls out for his brother to snap out of it, but by the time he's noticed what's going on, it's too late. Vegeta won't listen, and turns up looking towards his brother, and Shin, lifting his hand, powering up into a Super Saiyan, and firing a blast. Tarbell has hardly any time to react, so quickly jumps in the way of Shin, taking the attack for both of them. This badly injures him, as Vegeta is then told by Babidi to come in to his office and give him the energy for Majin Buu, but Vegeta refuses, saying he won't listen to him, and he's heading off to fight the battle he wishes to win. As Vegeta blasts a hole through Babidi's ship, Babidi curses at him as Vegeta slowly flies up, showing up on the battlefield. At first, everyone's happy of Vegeta's arrival, meaning that they had probably won, right? But when Bardock sees the mark on his head, he tells people to back away from Vegeta. As Gohan sees it as well, he jumps dramatically away from Deborah, having been the closest to the Prince of all Saiyans. Everyone now aware of the mark on Vegeta's head, Goku takes the chance to realise that Tarbell's ki is dramatically weak and hardly alive. He calls Vegeta a coward, asking what happened to his brother. Vegeta just laughs, saying how Tarbell had only made him weaker over the years, and now he's strong again. He's ruthless, a true Saiyan once more. As the low-class Saiyans, having stopped their battle, look towards Vegeta, fly over to him, and bow on one knee, asking their king what his orders are. Vegeta looks towards them and scoffs a little bit as he powers up to a Super Saiyan 3 and tells them to turn into an Ozaru and destroy this entire planet. Everyone on it must die. Vegeta then looks towards the others, who look pissed at him. Dabura, having seen everything which happens, walks towards the Saiyans, scolding them for not following the Great Master Babidi's orders. However, Vegeta quickly knocks Dabura out before dropping him back into Babidi's ship. He knows that killing him will release Broly, and right now he's got his hands full as it is. Goku is annoyed and wants to go Super Saiyan 4, but he knows it's too dangerous to do. After all, he'll be giving off way too much energy for Babidi, and he knows Super Saiyan 3 from Vegeta is probably feeding the last few bits of energy Babidi needs. So reluctantly, Goku powers up to Super Saiyan 2, a form he had picked up a while ago from Gohan. He hasn't mastered the state, but he decided to learn it just in case he ever needed it, and right now he's thankful he did. As Goku stares down Vegeta, he tells him to stand aside, but Vegeta laughs, knowing that Goku will not win in that form. Goku knows this, but he doesn't know what else to do. He doesn't want to be the reason that Boo's released. He doesn't want to give off any more energy than he already is. Vegeta then looks towards Fasha, who has fully prepared a Power Ball. He gives the order to do so, as she throws it upwards, as herself, Shigesh and Borgos all transform into Great Apes. Bardock, wanting to destroy the Power Ball fast, fires off a blast, but Vegeta in his Super Saiyan 3 form quickly blocks the attack for them, as he then lets them fully transform, as they now stare down 3 Great Apes in a Super Saiyan 3. Bardock's annoyed as he turns towards his son and grandson, telling Raditz and Gohan to head into the ship and destroy Babidi and hopefully get Dabura as well. They need all hands on deck right now, and getting Broly and Piccolo released would really help. Bardock then transforms into a Super Saiyan 2 himself, knowing why Goku has only gone Super Saiyan 2, decides to copy him. Knowing that this form should hopefully be enough, but he's also outnumbered, Goku flies up to match Vegeta as the two lock eyes for a second before clashing. Goku begins his battle against Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta, and straight away he's losing the fight. He tries his best to fight all out against Vegeta, but the power difference and how unused to using Super Saiyan 2 he is making it such a disadvantaged fight. Eventually Goku decides that he needs to move to fight elsewhere. He's given off way too much energy and he can't fight seriously with the idea that Babidi might take his energy and release Boo, and Goku can't fight properly with that on his mind. So after coming up with a quick plan, he shouts out a solar flare, temporarily blinding Vegeta, but the Prince can still sense what Goku's doing, as he sits in waiting for whatever the Saiyan has planned. But he soon regrets this decision, as he feels Goku's ki spike up massively, and a shout of Super Kaioken Variation 2 is heard. But by this point it's way too late, as Goku, using the Kaioken on top of Super Saiyan, hits Vegeta in the back of the head, sending him soaring across the planet. Goku powers down from the Super Saiyan 2 Kaioken, heavily fatigued. He only used the multiplier of ×5 in the Kaioken, but this is still way too much energy he exhausted. He's not used to using Super Saiyan 2, and on top of the Kaioken, it was way too much. But he takes a second to catch his breath and rushes off after Vegeta. He wants to avoid giving Babidi any more energy than he has to. Bardock, having seen what his son did, praises him mentally, while also holding off his former friends in their Great Ape state. But he is on the back foot. Not only is he holding back not to give off too much energy, he also wants to avoid hurting his friends since he still cares for them, and he doesn't really want to damage them too badly. Unfortunately for Bardock though, they don't share this opinion, as they very aggressively try to kill Bardock. Down in Babidi's ship, Gohan and Raditz rush towards the centre of the ship. They know Boo must be only moments away from awakening, and with Goku's battle moving away from the ship, they hope this buys them some more time, even if it's only a few seconds. The two make it to the floor where Shin and Tarbell are, with Shin trying to heal up Tarbell. With the Kai seeing Gohan and Raditz, he screams out for the 2-0 to just forget everything he said and destroy the entire ship, in hopes that it will kill Boo. The pair agree as Gohan and Raditz transform up into a Super Saiyan and fire off a huge blast towards the centre of the ship. However, at this point it's too late. Just as they fire off their attacks, laughter can be heard from Babidi. They can hear him singing Boo's name, as the group begin to panic as they feel Boo's energy for just a second. Before they can take it in too much, the energies around them change, so does the environment, as Gohan and Raditz turn around and see that where they are is somewhere they've never been before. It's unfamiliar. Raditz spends a second trying to sense the energies of his friends and family, but he can't find them. Gohan looks around and eventually looks towards the sky and screams out to his uncle Raditz to look up, As Raditz does so, he looks up and sees planet Earth. They're no longer on the planet. As they look around and see Babidi and Boo, Babidi laughs, saying how he had to remove themselves from Earth, as he can tell through Vegeta's memories that Goku and Bardock are really strong. If all three of Goku, Bardock and Raditz were to work together, they might have been able to kill Boo. So, if he manages to kill these two, and then they'll head back to Earth. Hearing this, Gohan is genuinely shocked, but Raditz just laughs, saying how he'll just destroy Boo here then, no difference to him. With Shin shouting out from behind, letting the other two know that himself and Tarbell were brought along with them. He tells them to be careful, Boo won't be easy to kill, just be on guard, so the two have to make this super fast as well. Raditz powers up to Super Saiyan 4 with Gohan Super Saiyan 2. With the pair getting ready to fight, Raditz leads with a flurry of blows into the blubbery belly of the beast before kicking Majin Buu airborne. Gohan, seeing an opening, fires off a Masenko, which connects, exploding, causing a huge cloud of smoke to appear. And as it clears, the remains of Buu can be seen floating in the air. Raditz begins to laugh, but so does Babidi. With Raditz looking towards him confused, Babidi points up, and Buu begins to reform as he laughs aloud, saying, "That was fun, let's do it again!" Raditz and Gohan realise it's going to be a much harder fight than they could ever imagine. As the battle begins to rage on once more, the planet begins to shake from their energy. Back on Earth, Goku can sense his brother and son disappear all of a sudden and can no longer find him, alongside Babidi. He begins to panic, he needs to know what happens to them, and he needs to end this battle fast. So, hoping that everything's over, he erupts his ki enraged, worried that the worst has happened. He knocks Vegeta back thanks to it, and then he powers up to Super Saiyan 4. But Goku can feel he's weaker. The damage from the battle against Vegeta and Shigesh earlier, on top of the Super Kaioken 2, fatigued him heavily, and is now left his Super Saiyan 4 on the same level as Vegeta's buffed up Super Saiyan 3. It's now an even battle. However, Goku can tell that Vegeta is running out of steam. Super Saiyan 3 isn't made for long duration usage, so he's hoping that during this battle, he's going to be able to outlast Vegeta, and once Vegeta slips up, Goku's going to end this fast and go find his family. Vegeta on the other hand believes he can win now thanks to him and Goku being on an even footing, and he can't wait to kill that guy. Over with Bardock, he too sensed the disappearance of his son and grandson, and then since Goku turned Super Saiyan 4, he realises that now they need to get serious, so he decides to do the same. As he calls out Solar Flare, blinding the Great Apes, while they're blinded, Bardock transforms into a Super Saiyan 4, and in a quick instance, upon seeing the form, the Great Apes freeze up in fear, but Bardock doesn't waste a second, knocking out the trio and then removing their tails so nothing like that could happen again. He quickly runs towards the remains of Babidi's ship, looking down to see nothing but Dabura, still knocked out. Bardock takes a second to sense the planet but can't find his grandson or son, so quickly he destroys the remainder of Babidi's ship, killing Dabura, freeing both Piccolo and Broly. The pair take a moment to get back their senses and then fly towards Bardock's power. He fills them in on what's happened before giving the pair orders. He tells Broly to go off and help Goku fight off Vegeta. The battle seems to be really close and they need Goku in the best condition they can get him in. Broly nods as he powers up to Super Saiyan and rushes off towards Goku. As for Piccolo, he tells his student to go towards Bulma's house, get the Dragon Radar and then collect the Dragon Balls. And hurry, they're going to need the Dragon Balls fast. Piccolo nods at his master as he flies away. As for Bardock, he grabs the unconscious Saiyans and heads towards the lookout, where he senses everyone else is gathered. Upon arriving, he fills the group in on what happened, making everyone nervous. Chi-Chi's worried about her husband and son, Bulma's hoping Vegeta is going to be okay. Suno, hearing about Tarbell injuries, pray for him. Launch is worried about Raditz, they've been having an on and off thing for a year or two now. Gine's just freaking the fuck out, and even Vidal's worried about Gohan. But Bardock looks over to see a still heavily injured Tora and asks why he hasn't eaten a sensu. Chi-Chi, annoyed, explains how he refuses to eat any. Apparently they've only got 5 sensu beans on hold, and he doesn't want to waste one on himself. Hearing that, Bardock asks for the sensu beans, with Chi-Chi handing them over. Bardock then splits the sensu bean in half, throwing it at Tora and telling him to eat it and get back some strength. Tora reluctantly does so as he thanks Bardock, who eats the other half, getting a full heal, and both receive a small Zenkai. Tora asks how their unconscious friends are doing, as Bardock explains what happened with them and the Margin Mark, and how it enhances their dark emotions. Hearing this, Tora sighs in relief. Hearing everything about the Margin's curse, learning that it only feeds into their deepest, darkest emotions, it means they might not be as angry as they were towards them. At least not as much as they were showing. In the back of Tora's mind though, he can't help but feel that they might have these true feelings inside of them, and maybe this is actually how they feel. Bardock is thinking the same, but he is too busy to think about it. As he turns back to the group, he explains how he's going to start searching for Raditz and Gohan. Turning to 18 and Tora, he tells the pair to keep an eye on the knocked out Saiyans, and if they start doing anything they shouldn't be, knock them out again. The pair nod, as Bardock who then turns to Kami. Piccolo and Kami never had fused in this timeline. They were about to, but never did, as Bardock explains that Piccolo will be healed to Dragon Ball soon, and wait for his orders to make a wish. Kami nods his head, and as Bardock's about to head off, Goten and Trunks jump out, saying how they want to help save the world. Bulma and Chi-Chi shout out at the two boys, telling them that they are not allowed to go, but Bardock looks at the two, then looks at everything that's going on. Sensing the planet, he kneels down to their eye level, and tells them, with a very serious face, that once they leave this lookout, he can't promise them he can defend them. If Buu is as strong as Shin said they are, there is a good chance that everyone here could die today, so are they willing to die for this planet? Both gulp, but Goten bravely nods as Trunks copies his friend. Bardock tells them that they're allowed to come, and that they need to be ready for any possible battle. Bulma and Chi-Chi lose their shit towards Bardock, but Tora reminds them that Saiyans are born and bred warriors, and fighting from a young age, much younger than those two, to the death is something Saiyans used to experience all the time. As much as they hate their old ways, it's in their blood, and those two young ones will fight to their final breath. It's hardwired into their DNA. This doesn't make Bulma and Chi-Chi feel much better, as Guinea then explains how Bardock will play tough, but he will die for those two before he lets a single bit of damage ever land on them. As they hear this, they try not to worry as much, and they put their trust in Bardock. Bardock's about to leave as the younger Hisame and Maron offer their help. Bardock laughs aloud, getting down on one knee once again, and tells the two that they have to leave their strongest fighters on the lookout to defend everyone. So he tells both Hisame and Maron to look after their parents and keep everyone safe. The pair nod, being pretty juvenile and young still, as they wander back to their parents and keep an eye on the knocked out Saiyan, waiting for them to move so they can knock them back out. But now, Bardock looks towards his grandson and Trunks, asking if the two are ready. They both nod as the trio fly off, searching the planet. Our first stop is Goku. We join our story back in the battle between Goku and Vegeta. The two fighters have put everything they have on the plate, and it's clear they are slowly running out of steam. But Goku can tell Vegeta is going to be the one to fall first. He just has to stall this fight as much as possible. Vegeta has also been able to tell this, and he refuses to give up. He begins to pick up his fighting pace, fighting much more aggressively, trying to make up for the fact that Super Saiyan 3 is a much more draining form. But Goku is happy to play the defensive. Super Saiyan 4 doesn't share any stamina issues at this point. He's all but mastered it, but before the battle can reach its natural conclusion, backup arrives in Broly. He arrives on the battlefield, coming in to aid Goku by landing a sneak attack in on Vegeta. Goku is thrilled to see Broly, as someone he sees as his older brother. The bigger Saiyan responds with a small nod, and Goku tells Broly they'll finish this fast and figure out the details later. Broly agrees as they both power up, and Goku and the older Saiyan rush Vegeta, who is unable to keep up with the two Saiyans' power, and soon put down and knocked out. After Vegeta goes down, Goku decides to drop out of Super Saiyan 4, letting out a sigh of relief as he feels that he is almost out of energy completely. But he needs to know what's going on, asking Broly what happened. But the big Saiyan doesn't know too much. However, a few seconds later, a bit of luck arrives. Bardock and the hybrids arrive, offering up some more information. Goten gives his father a hug while Bardock shares the details of everything which has gone down, and planning out their next move. Goku is concerned to learn that Gohan's location is unknown, and if Buu was released, he's in danger. Bardock hands Goku a senzu bean, granting him a small Zenkai and giving him all of his energy back. They begin to talk about whether they should release Vegeta or not, but before they can do anything, they decide to reconverge at the lookout, since they can sense Piccolo's energy arriving at the place, and using the Dragon Balls to bring Gohan and Raditz to their location might not be a bad idea. So, the Saiyans start getting ready to fly, but that's when they feel a familiar energy. But it's twisted, warped, and as they look around, only a few feet away from them, the monster, sporting Saiyan armour, appears. The group look over as Buu introduces himself, saying how he's here to play with a few more Saiyans. The last one was delicious.
Back a few minutes, we see Raditz and Gohan fighting off Boo with ease. The pink monster can hardly keep up, but the issue of Boo's regeneration is causing too many problems. They are running out of steam as Boo is starting to wear them down, and he is getting angry and angry. As the two Saiyans continue to fight, eventually they need to break for some breath. They are drained at this point. Raditz is hardly holding Super Saiyan 4, whereas Gohan is dropping in and out of Super Saiyan. And during this moment of breathing, Boo gets his chance to split. As Bad Boo and Good Boo separate, it confuses everyone present, but they can't pay too much attention for long, as soon Bad Boo absorbs Good Boo, creating Super Boo, and that was a lot of boos. Babidi laughs out in glee while the others are scared of the power they sense. Raditz is already able to tell that they are outmatched. If he was at full power he might stand a chance, but this monster is way too much. He tries to figure out a way to get off this planet as Shin appears behind them, holding Tarbell, who is waking in and out of consciousness, saying how he can get them out of here, but they must move now. Raditz, hearing this, grits his teeth, telling Gohan to leave with Shin and head back to Earth to warn the others. He'll hold Boo off here and maybe even try to kill him. Gohan calls his uncle crazy, but the man just laughs, screaming how all Saiyans are. He rushes into battle, and Gohan goes to back him up, but Tarbell weakly grabs Gohan's leg, telling him not to. This hurts Gohan a little bit. He doesn't want to leave someone, especially Raditz, but he decides to agree, shaking his head slyly. Shin thanks Gohan, grabbing hold of both Saiyans and using the Kai Kai to take them to the Supreme Kai world, where, like in canon, Gohan begins to train with the Z-Sword after getting healed. Him and Tarbell periodically taking it in turns to train with it and against one another. This would lead to the Zord breaking a bit earlier, and also lead to them getting their potential unlocked. Gohan is still recommended, as Tarbell, even though he is strong, has very little potential as far as Saiyans go. Still more than most humans and even Piccolo, but very small compared to Gohan. Back on the planet where Raditz once fought alongside his nephew, he now fights alone against Super Boo, but it's clear Raditz is running out of energy. He plans on using a explosion to kill himself and hopefully Boo, but he would need time to prepare his energy. He's almost all out. After having to fight Fat Boo and the Great Apes earlier, he's very tired. So after breaking away from Super Boo for a few seconds, his ki begins to surge and swell around him. Super Boo's confused as what he's doing, but Babidi catches on fast, telling Boo to deal with him fast. Super Boo once again doesn't like the orders, but does get an idea, as he detaches his own arm and throws it towards Raditz, stopping the man from using his final explosion, and then he's absorbed into Super Boo. The power of a Super Saiyan 4 combined with the Margin's energy creates a massive surge of ki, which can almost be felt from every planet nearby, as Babidi once again tries to give orders to Boo, but Buditz doesn't care for getting orders. He's taken on Raditz's aspects, that feeling that Saiyans have to grow stronger, that feeling to be free, and not wanting to take orders like Raditz had to from Frieza for all those years. Buditz decides not to risk it, extending his arm out towards Babidi, crushing the wizard's neck, and then absorbing him for some power, having left him alive just enough to gain some more magical abilities. Buditz grows even stronger, but not in the strength. His magical abilities are enhanced so much. He can feel everything, and decides to test out his new power on a planet worthy of his true destructive abilities. He decides on Earth, remembering all the great fighters back there. So we join our heroes back when Buditz arrived on Earth. The monster gives a scary smile towards the Saiyans, asking if they're ready to join him. This confuses everyone, as Bardock screams out asking where his son and grandson is, but Buditz just laughs. Wanting to get a reaction out of the Saiyans, he explains that he had managed to absorb that Raditz one. As for the other two, he killed them off not too long ago, and now he's here to finish the job. And just as Buditz wanted, Goku and Broly both power up, Broly using his Super Saiyan state and Goku goes straight to Super Saiyan 4. The two fighters catch Goku off guard with a combination attack, and thanks to years of training alongside one another, they get some good hits in. But it doesn't take long for Buditz to collect himself and start fighting back, able to hold both of these fighters off thanks to the enhancements of the Super Saiyan 4 Raditz, and also just becoming super. While they fight off Buditz, Down on the ground, Bardock tries to collect himself. He feels rage like he hadn't felt in years, but he remembers he needs to be calculated and come up with a plan fast on how to save his son. The others can be revived, and he now needs to figure out what to do. And also trying to figure out who that other Saiyan was, but then it clicks. He remembers Tarbell. Spending a second trying to sense the man's energy, he can't find it. It has to have been him. He can't believe it that Boo managed to kill all three of them. But before he can think about it anymore, power level spikes up dramatically. Looking around, Bardock sees Goten having achieved Super Saiyan 2. Having learnt that his brother and his uncle had been killed, he has achieved a new level of power. He rushes in helping his father and Broly, who at first are reluctant to let the boy fight, but the look on his face shows resolve that they have never seen before, allowing him to stay in the fight. Bardock and Trunks watch from the sides, Bardock trying to come up with a plan desperately, while Trunks is frozen in fear. Before either of them can move, Vegeta wakes up. Trunks quickly helps his father to his feet, as Bardock begins to question which side Vegeta is on. The Prince shares how he was never under anyone's control, he just needed that power to close the gap, but even that was too little. Bardock clenches his fist, wanting to put it directly in Vegeta's face, calling him a selfish fool who had got his own brother killed. Hearing this, Vegeta and Trunks look shocked. They don't believe it, and they refuse to believe it, asking what happened. Bardock points at Buditz, who is currently holding off 3 Super Saiyans, as Bardock announces that he killed him, and killed him with a smile on his face. Trunks, angry and not wanting to waste a second, moves out of his father's grasp, powering up on the flight towards Super Buu before tackling him at full speed. However, this does nothing but annoy Majin Buu, who grows more violent the longer the fight goes on. But now with 4 Super Saiyans in front of him, he's struggling a bit to keep up, with Goten and Trunks being able to work together amazingly, while Goku and Broly can do the same. Meanwhile on the ground, seeing that Vegeta is in himself once again, Bardock reluctantly hands the Prince a Senzu Bean. You can beat him up about it later. Right now they need to save this planet. So, once the Prince has got the Senzu Bean in his gullet and gotten a Zenkai and his power back, both Saiyans power up to the max. Buditz senses this and realises he could lose this fight if those two join in, but then he notices the M on Vegeta's head, and he hatches a dastardly plan. He is hit by one of Super Saiyan 4 Goku's attacks. He splits off a part of himself, letting it fall to the ground unnoticed as he regrows the missing limb, while down on the ground the sludge begins to go into a much smaller looking Buu, which begins to cackle as it begins to put its arms together and close its eyes. Up in the fight, the unsuspected Saiyans battle on against Buditz. Vegeta and Bardock soon join the fight, and Buu is now clearly losing. He stays calm, however, using Babidi's tactical side alongside Raditz's Saiyan bravery to continue fighting. And shortly after Vegeta joins the fight, the man screams out in pain. Without even being hit, Trunks, worried about his father, goes to help him and stops fighting, allowing Buu to grab the boy by the arm, punch him in the gut and throw him directly into Goten, sending the boys flying miles away. Broly, worried about the two, rockets off after them, catching them and checking to see if they're alright. Goku flies towards Vegeta to check on him, and Bardock is the only one left fighting Buu, asking what he's doing, but Buu only laughs, saying how he's adding to himself. Suddenly, the M on Vegeta's face turns pink, and the man's face looks scared. Soon, Vegeta's sent flying towards Buu, then getting absorbed by the margin. However, it doesn't end there, as up on the lookout, the 3 knocked out Saiyans begin to cry out in pain, before their margin marks also turn pink, as they are then sent flying off the lookout. Tora desperately tries to grab hold of his friends, confused at what's going on, but it's too late as he misses out on grabbing one of their legs. He continues to fly off after them, before arriving on the battlefield to see them absorbed by Buu. The margin just stood there cackling like a madman. As Broly, Goten and Trunks arrive on the battlefield, everyone is horrified at the power of Buu continuously increasing, and in a last-ditch effort, they all charge up the strongest attack they can muster up. Even Tora goes into his Super Kaioken times 20 to help. However, after firing an attack, and the attacks combine together, moments before it collides with Buu, the man erupts a barrier around himself, using Babidi's magic, easily able to defend himself. As the smoke clears, Buditz is shown to be unharmed, stood there with a cocky smile, and maybe even a hint of boredom, wondering if that's all the Saiyans could muster up. Everyone looks horrified, as Bardock asks how he did that. Boo explains it's simple. Everyone with the Margin Curse was attracted towards him thanks to a simple, pulling spell. He separated a piece of himself, pointing out the sludge he had left on the ground, creating a mini version of himself, which casted the spell. It was relatively disappointing that they didn't notice. He even gave it a good bit of power. He wanted them to catch him out a little bit. As Boo now stands there confidently, asking what their next move will be. Will they try and run? Will they power up even more? Will they give a senzu bean to Broly and hope he's more than enough? All Saiyans grit their teeth, unsure of what to do. But that question's answered for Boo, as the sky turns black, and suddenly the Saiyans are no longer stood in front of him. He's confused for a few seconds before realising that the Dragon Balls must have played a part in this. He doesn't know where they've gone, but he'll find them. There is no way they could grow strong enough to face him. Over on Namek, the Z-Fighters have all been teleported, and when I say the Z-Fighters, I mean everyone. The likes of Tien, 17, and even Yajirobe are present. Everyone's confused, but as Piccolo walks forward, he explains himself. He explains how he made a wish to send everyone over a certain level of power and their families to be sent to planet Namek. This will buy the Z-Fighters a few extra hours at most, and hopefully will give them a chance with a plan to defeat Boo. It was the only way he could think to win. Although after Boo had gotten so strong, he's not sure if there is a chance. But that's when a Saiyan, believed to be dead, speaks up. Tarbell shares the news of his and Gohan's training under the Kais, sharing to everyone how Gohan is training at this point in time and receiving a ritual which should allow him to defeat Boo. But it will take time, and a lot of it. Everyone is happy to hear this, but wonders if this ritual will really work. Tarbell says how the old Kai who had recommended it believes it should, however it's clear Boo has grown much stronger since then, so they need to have some contingency plans ready. Everyone's surprised to see Tarbell take such an initiative in this all. After all, he's normally quite shy. But that's when someone shouts up, saying how he has a few more options for them. As Bardock turns to see his old mentor in Nail, who had sensed Bardock's arrival and come to see his old student. The two share a hug before Bardock asks what he means. The Namekian tells Bardock that Elder Mori had heard of the problems Bardock was facing on Earth through King Kai and wanted to offer some help. So he did some digging through the Namekian Book of Legends and has found something which could help. If Bardock has the time to hear, Mori would love to share. The Saiyan nods happily as they fly off. The other Saiyans are left sat around catching up with 17, who they haven't seen in a while. But that's when two Namekians they've never seen before in their lives approach and start healing the Saiyans who are injured. They introduce themselves as Cargo and Dende and explain how they're here to help as much as possible. While they're getting injured, over at Elder Mori's hut, Bardock is welcomed into the building and welcomed back to the planet with open arms. Bardock apologises for having to use this planet to hide away from such a great danger and possibly bringing it to this planet. However, Mori just throws this aside, telling Bardock he will always be welcome on Namek, and in fact, he might be able to help, sharing how over the last few hours he has read up on some interesting things in the Book of Legend, and has read something which might help. In fact, he's read two things which could help with this upcoming battle. Bardock thanks Mori, sharing how he's desperate to learn, as the Elder hands the book over, sharing 2 page numbers for him to read and learn from, before telling him to save the universe once again, and make sure not to damage that book. Bardock laughs nervously as he thanks Mori, before flying back towards the others, quickly flicking through the pages which are in there, and learning one very interesting technique which he believes would work well for Goten and Trunks, and maybe himself and Tora. And then he reads on a legend which he thought was, a legend, and how to achieve such great power. Now he just needs to choose a candidate for it, and he believes he has the perfect choice. Once arriving back with the others, he realises that everyone has already started training to get ready for Boo. However, he insists that the Saiyans stop doing so, telling the androids, the humans and Piccolo to continue training. Right now he only needs the Saiyans present. Once he gets all Saiyans present, he tells them exactly what they'll be doing, sharing with Goten, Trunks and Tora that they'll be training with him, not too far from the camp they've currently got set up. As for the others, they are to collect the Dragon Balls and wait for his next order. Once the Dragon Balls are collected, he is allowing them to lightly spar, However, they are not allowed to use any of the Super Saiyan form. Once he gets back from completing his training, he'll walk them through the idea of the ritual. Confused, they ask what ritual. Bardock smiles, saying how today will be the day Kakarot ascends to the gods. Everyone is left speechless, but Bardock leaves fast, with Goten, Trunks and Tora following along behind, before anyone can ask too many questions, as he begins his training, starting practice on something called the Fusion Dance. But while practicing the movements for this technique, Tora asks Bardock if he was talking about the Super Saiyan God. The Saiyan nods his head as Tora can't believe the legend is real, but realises he has to take this training seriously, even if he finds the movements embarrassing. Training is intense, but not in the physical aspect, just mentally for Tora and Bardock. Goten and Trunks get this technique down very fast and then start practicing using their newly acquired Fusion Dance state, which they dub Gotenks. Tora is amazed at the power that two kids have, but will it be enough? As 14 hours pass, Boo has finally grown bored of killing Earthlings, so he decides to kill everyone left on the planet as he takes off into space looking for our fighters who had ran away from him. But he has given our heroes more than enough time, and Boo is about to find out the hard way. On Namek, our heroes sense the life force of everyone left on Earth disappear. They're saddened by this, but Bardock rallies his allies, sharing how they have more than enough powers to defeat multiple Boos, so they shouldn't worry. So they just need to follow the plan and make sure they get everyone back. Everyone lets out a cheer as Bardock summons Prunga and Perfect Namekian, sharing his wishes, asking for everyone who has died to Babidi or his minions who are of pure of heart to be revived. As they feel the life force of multiple Earthlings and even Kibito reappear on Earth, they then ask for their next wish, sharing for all Saiyans and Boo to be taken to the world of the Kais. Prunga's eyes flash as their wish is granted. However, this has taken all of the dragon's powers, so he disappears. As everyone arrives at the Supreme Kai world, Goku rushes over to his son, sharing a hug with him. Gohan's power feels different and stronger than ever, as everyone looks around to see Boo, who looks confused. But having seen the Saiyans, he looks confident once again. He asks if they are now willing to die, and if this is the battlefield they wish to die on. Well, he's seen worse, but no one looks scared. In fact, our fighters smile confidently. Gohan stepping forward in front of everyone, as he powers up to his newly acquired ultimate form. Even though he had to cut the ritual early, he still managed to collect the form, and his power is massive. As Boo's confused by the sudden increase in power, he's soon hit directly in the gut by Gohan, catching him completely off guard. Gohan begins to beat into Boo, but the Margin quickly responds with a massive uppercut. His power is still much greater than Gohan's. Back down on the ground as Boo and Gohan clash, it's clear Gohan won't win this alone, so they decide to fall back into their other plans. Goku is surrounded by the other Saiyans with him as they perform the God Ritual on him. The team of Broly, Tarbell, Goten, Trunks and Gine all pour their energy into the Saiyan, with the man ascending into godhood. He rushes into the fight to fight alongside his son. Goku can't believe the power he wields, but doesn't have time to think about it, as he rushes in, getting Boo off Gohan, and the father and son duo begin to fight in perfect sync, being able to fight toe to toe with Boo. This begins to shake the Margin's confidence. Sure, he could have taken Gohan alone, and maybe he could have even taken Goku with this new godly state, but fighting them together is difficult. He could still win as long as no one else joins. That's when the sound of Fusion Ha is heard, as Goten breaks his way onto the seed, catching Boo in a galactic donut, allowing Goku to punch Boo directly in the face, sending the Margin rocketing across the planet. But before he gets too far away, his flight is stopped by a sudden grab of the shoulder. Majin Buu breaks free of the donut and turns around to see a new fusion stood in front of him. Someone who looks exactly like Bardock and Tora. The man introduces himself as Bora as he powers up to Super Saiyan, punching directly into Boo's mouth, digging around for a few seconds before pulling out fascia and chucking the woman towards Broly, who is watching along the sides with Gine. Boo goes to hit Bora, but his hit is stopped by Gohan, who defends his grandpa, saying how weird it is to see Great Uncle Tora and Bardock fuse. Bora laughs, saying he's happy his idea of just ripping their friends out works. It's time to save the others. As he powers up to Super Saiyan 4, they all begin to beat into Boo with no regard. as they slowly destroy him bit by bit. They pull out their friends one by one, at first Vegeta, then Borgos, then Shigesh, and finally Raditz. After what felt like a lifetime for Boo, which in reality was only 3 minutes for our heroes, they have ripped every single one of their friends out of the man, and now just plan to destroy the creature. Goku, willing to do so, kicking Boo into the air, and with a single hand fires off a blast bigger than any produced by any character up in this point in the series, completely destroying the margin and saving the day. Everyone begins to celebrate, while Goku looks at his hands, curious. Bora notices this, asking what's wrong, as Goku explains how this power is incredible, something he never thought he could achieve, and to be honest, he was holding back throughout that entire fight. He didn't want to waste his time in this form, and getting to fight alongside his sons, his family, and the people he cares about. That's what he really enjoys about martial arts. So he didn't want to end it all then. And he probably could have killed Boo the moment he joined the fight. So he felt like he didn't really get to test out this full power. Bora asks if he would like to have a sparring match once they get back to Earth, as Goku excitedly nods, wondering if this power is within his grasp alone, without others' help. But for now, he wants to celebrate. Bardock and Tora defuse and head over towards their former squad mates. They are happy to see that they are at least alive. Well, for now. Shin shares how Babidi's curse will soon lift and they will be taken back to Otherworld. This saddens Bardock and Tora, but as their former squad come back too, they show off that the fact their margin mark is left. They share how happy they are that they got to fight against Bardock and Tora once again, even if Tora is still a pushover, getting a reaction out of the man. As they spend a few seconds talking, Bardock shares how he's sorry he didn't save them, and they tell him not to worry about it. They understand that they weren't the friendliest Saiyans, and even though they were friends, he made the right decision in the end of the day. They look forward to meeting Bardock in the afterlife. That's if he's not done enough good deeds to make his way into heaven. But when he inevitably comes down to hell, they'll be waiting for him. As they slowly fade off back into Otherworld, Bardock and Tora smile, knowing that their friends didn't hate them, knowing that their friends were still jackasses, like they always were. Vegeta's margin mark lifts as well, as he apologises for everything he did. Tarbell smacks his brother over the head, telling him not to be stupid ever again, getting Goku to laugh, and even Broly chuckles slightly. After a short while of rest, Shin takes everyone to Namek, where they share the good news of their victory to their family and friends. Everyone begins to celebrate, even Shin a little bit. And while everyone's caught up in celebration, Bardock slips away from the group, as he watches from a distance, watches his sons mess around with one another, even his adopted ones. He sees his wife interact with his daughter-in-laws, watches his best friend happily talk around with Nail, someone he would consider his mentor and a close ally, watches his grandkids and his student run around like idiots, and Bardock can't help but smile at the sight, as he turns back to see a crater in the ground, with grass now starting to grow out of it, and starting to reclaim the damaged spot of the planet. It's the place he had crash-landed over 30 years ago, and as he stares at the crater, he stares down his former self, the old angry, violent Saiyan, which had never saved anything in his life, before Bardock corrects himself, saying how he saved that Namekian and that child, alongside his own son, wondering if karma had a funny way of showing itself by saving him that night, by having Gine and Tora disobey what he told them to do, and save him. He can't believe how lucky he was to make it to a planet as amazing as Namek. This planet truly saved him, helped him escape his former ways, as he looks up to the sky wondering how Minato and that cerulean child were doing. He hopes that they had a good life just as much as he did, as he now wonders what would have happened if he hadn't escaped. How different would things be? Would have his sons made it? Would have his family lived as prosperous life as they have here? Before his wife shows up, grabbing him, getting him to shake this thought out of his head, as he looks down to her. They share a moment before it's interrupted by the sound of Goku having reawakened his god ki, and a shout initiating combat is heard, Raditz, Vegeta, Taro, and Broly all power up following after this, telling Goku that they're taking him down. The Saiyan just laughs loudly, asking them to bring it. And as that fight breaks out and starts to echo across the planet, Bardock is happy that this is the reality he's in.